Hasbullah, what will you eat?
Burger.
Okay, then let's get started.
He was born into a family belonging to a noble family. His brothers often inspired him by wishing him dead for being a complete mediocrity and descendant of a traitor. And the girls cheered up by saying that marrying him was tantamount to humiliation. Close friends, on the other hand, liked to practice with him often. He was grateful to all this happiness for making him stronger. And if they bowed to his strength, he could become the most respected and strongest in this world. After all, he is the famous possessor of dragon blood in his veins. Panlundao, Zhang House, meeting room. Zhang Tinghe, the head of the Zhang and Dai families, asked those present if anyone knew why he had gathered them. Jiang Feng, Jiang Ping, and Jiang Tianlong had nothing to say. And only Jiang Bao suggested that it was because today was the death anniversary of the previous head of the family, Jiang Kaifeng. Jiang Tinghe dropped the cup out of surprise and said, "This is utter nonsense." He asked Jiang Bao why he should be interested in this brigand and immediately gave an order. From today, any rituals in honor of Jiang Kaifeng are forbidden. After which he explained why he had called them. The Zhang family was coming to negotiate today, so they all needed to prepare well so as not to make a single blunder. After a while, somewhere in the forest, a young man sat at his father's tombstone and talked about the fact that in the past year, the latter had ruled the fates and had given his all for the good of the Jiang family. Today is also the anniversary of his death, but no one can hold rituals in his honor, and it was unfair. He admitted that he can't do anything because he has no way to get his family back on their feet, and so far he has been cast out. And so he cannot complete his father's path, which he considered a dishonor on his soul. Suddenly footsteps were heard, and a new shadow appeared at the grave. Turning around, the young man saw that Jiang Ping had approached him, after which he immediately bowed to the grave. Jiang Ping began to tell his uncle that he remembered that day well as if it was yesterday, and the young man wanted to thank him for his kind words to his father. But suddenly Jiang Nangping said that Jiang Nang Kaifeng could not atone for his atrocities even with his death. He explained that such a thief did not deserve all the benefits brought to him. In destroying the offerings said, Kaifeng completely destroyed the reputation of the Zhang family. Seeing this, the young man couldn't contain himself and angrily began to gather energy, and wrapped his fist in red energy and aimed it straight at his face. But suddenly, Jiang Ping was able to grab his fist and began to mock his bloodline. Then summoning the power of his bloodline, he shouted that he was a wild descendant of cows. And squeezing the young man's hand harder, he said that without the support of his favorite daddy, he was nothing. After which he used the strength of the bull bloodline to hit the young man with all his might. It crashed into a nearby tombstone, turning it into pebbles. After which Jiang Ping he went to Jiang Kaifeng's tombstone and asked him to look at his lowly son, for after all, he was a disgrace. Jiang Ping walked over to him and still decided to remind Jiang Ting of something, namely that the Jiang heiress had already arrived at their place, and asked him to guess if she would break her engagement to him. After all, Jiang Ting is just a swagger, and he simply can't embarrass himself in front of people. After mocking Jiang Ting to his heart's content, Jiang Ping still left, laughing contentedly at this lowlife. Jiang Ting stood up, leaning on the tombstone, and called himself a moron, for he had really built up illusions towards his family. Realizing he had leaned on the tombstone, he removed his hand and walked away, admitting that he had no way to solve this problem. And so he was sure that all he could do was fight until he died. As suddenly a golden energy burst out from the bloody tombstone, then immediately rushed towards Jiang Ting. A submissive spirit formed from the energy. He was alarmed that this young man had been so wronged by fate since he was young. And if he really was so temperamental, he was willing to help him succeed. Feeling something, Jiang Ting turned around to look at the grave and realized that he had gotten too worried. Afterward, he apologized to the unnamed ancestors of the Jiang family, and he promised that he'd put their headstones back up if he could come back alive. House Jiang. The people greeted Head Jiang as he arrived and said that Head Jiang was already waiting for them. They were discussing amongst themselves about how prestigious the Jiang family's Head Jiang was and enjoying the sight of the Jiang family's mistress. Head Jiang had told his daughter that today was a great day for negotiations, but she had already managed to disappoint the Jiang family. After a while, they still reached the meeting hall, where Jiang Chunghao extolled Jiang's strength and asked for their head's help. To which the head of Zhang replied that Zhang Qinghe's words were very serious, and their clan was legendary on Panlong Island, and therefore they dare not forget their family. Chief Zhang said that Zhang's son Qinghe is a leader among the younger generation of the Zhang family, and many roads are open for a young man with such talents. Jiang Qinghe couldn't help but thank head Zhang for saying those words, saying that he was clearly overpraising him, and also recognized that head Zhang's daughter was indeed beautiful. Jiang Qinghe leaned toward the head of Zhang and reluctantly began to talk about Jiang Ting. He said that as soon as they arrived, Jiang Ting was blown away by the wind. Hearing this, head Zhang ordered that this should stop because, to put it bluntly, the marriage contract they had previously made could not be changed, but his daughter would only marry Zhang Tianlong. Zhang Tianlong thanked Chief Zhang and walked up to his daughter and said that he was honored. Head Zhang agreed to their marriage, admitting that they looked good together, which made Jiang Qinghe laugh out loud and announced that the Zhang family would hold a banquet today in honor of it and present Miss Zhang with 10 Shueliang crystals as a congratulatory gift. Jiang Pan asked where such treasures could come from, and Jiang Bao was excited about the upcoming wedding. When suddenly there was a shout ordering them to stop, Jiang Ting appeared in the doorway looking at him. Everyone thought that he wanted to disgrace himself again, because he was a walking disgrace of the entire Zhang family. Jiang Ting reminded his uncle that today was the anniversary of his father's death, but he was too busy to honor him. Head Zhang motioned for Jiang Ting to walk towards them, causing Jiang Qinghe to panic slightly, and shouted to Jiang Ting that he was too impudent since the Zhang family had already made concessions by coming to visit them today. Jiang Ting walked through the hall and asked Zhang Xingyan if she really wanted to get married. Upon hearing this, she used her golden pheasant bloodline and asked how dare he speak to her in such an insolent tone. The Zhang family members were amazed by the strength of the golden pheasant's bloodline, for even a single phrase was enough to realize it. Yi Jiangting couldn't stand it and spat in front of Zhang Xingyan on his knees. Zhang Xingyan told Zhang Ting that they couldn't be together because there was too much difference between their births. After which she demanded that the circus stop. After all, she was only willing to marry Zhang Tianlong. She demanded that Zhang Ting write a renunciation of the engagement, after which she would be engaged to Zhang Tianlong a second time, and only under that condition would she be willing to marry into the Zhang clan. Zhang Ting asked if she was joking about it. After all, they were originally strangers to each other, and he didn't care about her. Zhang Xingyan shouted that Zhang Ting was too greedy, as Zhang Tianlong suddenly stopped her to stop kicking that trash. After which he leaned over to Zhang Ting and revealed that Zhang Xingyan had been given to him back on the day Zhang Kaifeng died, after which he admitted that his bride was a beauty. Hearing this, Zhang Ting was astonished at what he heard as he realized what the man had done. And Zhang Tianlong covered his mouth with a fan to hide his smile and praised Zhang Ting's facial expression. Zhang Ting regretted that Zhang Tianlong was his older brother, and Zhang Qinghao ordered him to stop it, because no matter how his father had already put their family down, his behavior was also shaming them all. In order to teach the insolent man a lesson, Zhang Qing had decided to teach him a lesson on behalf of the head of the family. Just as suddenly, Zhang Ting started laughing out loud at the sight of such an imposing evil appearance. Today was his father's anniversary, and he had gone to the cemetery to honor his memory, while they couldn't even show a little humanity. Zhang Ting shouted that the one keeps trying to bully him, using force for personal gain. And while the other sons humiliate him by shouting oxygen, he just watches it all. And also, Zhang Qinghai was the one who managed to destroy their family in 1 year, as well as the foundation that his father had built for so many years. Pointing a finger down, he said that this alone was the entire strength of Zhang Qinghe. Zhang Tianlong ordered his brother to stop talking nonsense, but he immediately ordered him to shut his mouth, for even he didn't have a drop of kindness in him. Head Zhang coughed loudly to stop the strife, and said that they had chosen a bad time to visit, so another day should be set to discuss the engagement, and then left with his daughter. After them, Zhang Ting was about to leave the hall, but Zhang Tianlong ordered him to stop because he was not allowed to leave, to which Zhang Ting replied that if their father had something to discuss with him, he would find him. And with one last look back, he told them he would fight to the last man. Zhang Qinghe shouted after him to come back, for no one would let him leave so easily. And Zhang Tianlong asked him not to worry, promising that Jian Ting could never bother them again. Jiang Ping came to the family graveyard and immediately attacked Jiang Ting. He was angry because he had recently shown himself to be a bad person by stigmatizing their family. And since even the head of the family wanted him dead, Jiang Ping was also fine with letting him die easily and quickly. Jiang Ting knew that Jiang Ting Hao was not a weakling at all, but he still decided to join the general group, and so he demanded that they bring him to see it. But Jiang Ping was even more infuriated that Jiang Ting kept opening his rotten mouth, and so he once again rushed to attack. Jiang Ting refused to die so easily and began to use his bloodline to try and defend himself. But he didn't make it in time, causing Jiang Ping to give him a painful blow to his neck. He then grabbed onto it and demanded that Jiang Ting kneel down and started calling out loudly for his grandfather, promising that only after such an outcome would his corpse be left alone. But Jiang Ting wasn't going to put up with such a thing and spat in Jiang Ping's face, showing his stance. From something like this, Jiang Ping wasn't going to give Qian Ting a chance anymore and told the man face for face. Then he kicked him with his foot and said that he would kill him and then jump on his corpse until he got bored. Being sent flying, Jiang Ting was still able to regain his balance and get to his feet. Then he gave Jiang Ping the middle finger and told Jiang Ping that he was just like his father, preferring to play rather than fight. Jiang Ping was offended by such words and immediately summoned a bull, trying to destroy Jiang Ting with a single blow. Jiang Ting had been waiting for this moment and was already preparing to put his life on the line to take his chance. Then the bull still crashed into him, creating a large dust cloud. After dealing with Jiang Ting, Jiang Ping began to scoff at just how crazy this brat was. Just as suddenly he noticed Ji out of the dust cloud. Something flew out, rushing into the air. And after a little closer look, he realized it was just a distraction. Immediately after that, Jiang Ping looked at the dust cloud. But it was already too late, as Jiang Ting had already gotten close to him and was about to end this fight. Suddenly, many chains flew out of nowhere in an instant, wrapping around Jiang Ting. As it turned out, Jiang Ping didn't dare to go by himself even to this weakling, and so he decided to back up. Kneading Jiang Ping's hand told Jiang Ting that this dirty dog would have to stop the blood loss as well. Jiang Ping said that Jiang Ting was just a liar, for if his clan was as strong as he believed, he wouldn't be able to stand in his way. After which, Jiang Ping brought his finger towards Jiang Ting, creating a cut, surprising him. For Jiang Ting realized that he could no longer change his blood. Jiang Ping said that he didn't have the mood, hence he would straighten him out rather quickly. And getting to his heart, began to laugh, mocking him, for the heart in his hand was so soft, and he could take his life with just a little squeeze of his hand. As a friend, a voice sounded in Jiang Ting's head. It asked if he understood his strength, to which Jiang Ting replied that he did, but its price was too high. After which, a voice rejoiced at this, and Jiang Ting shone with a golden light, rousing the surrounding people. And a moment later exploded with power, freeing himself from his restraints and scattering his opponents. He pulled down his headband, straightening his hair, and the spirit of his ancestor appeared above him, a golden dragon resting on his shoulder. Jiang Ping's aides were shocked at how strong Jiang Ting had suddenly become, because it was simply impossible. But Jiang Ping rushed towards Jiang Ting, shouting for them to attack again. After all, it was only a bluff. At the same moment, the ancestor spirit told Jiang Ting that it was giving him all of its power, and therefore he should blow up his opponents, and immediately lashed out at Jiang Ping, screaming about how no matter how much scum tried to be better, he would never change. Jiang Ping was about to take out that arrogant brat, but suddenly he received a punch from Jiang Ting. He shouted that he would no longer look at those above nor those below, after which he immediately jumped and was above the falling Jiang Ping in the blink of an eye. And in the next instant, I stomped that arrogant asshole into the ground. Jiang Ping wept and began to beg Jiang Ting not to kill him. He promised that he would never dare to even touch him again. But Jiang Ting wasn't going to hold back. He was going to take revenge on him, not only for himself, but also for daring to insult his grandfather. Jiang Ping's aides were astonished that he had been defeated by a pathetic scum, and so they immediately gathered to flee the battlefield and report everything to Zhang Tianlong. A red dragon's silhouette formed behind Jiang Ting's back, and he said that it was now his duty. Jiang Ting grabbed Jiang Ping by the hair and dragged him to his father's grave and demanded that he apologize to his father. And Jiang Ping, unresisting, bowed before the grave, and admitting that he was wrong, he began to apologize. Then Jiang Ting ordered the one to tell his fraudulent father that he would soon regain everything that rightfully belonged to him. Jiang Ping agreed and immediately ran away from this place. But only after stepping outside the graveyard did he shout to Jiang Ting not to be so arrogant, or else he would personally wipe him into powder. The ancestor spirit was frustrated at how useless the Jiang family's heirs were, as they were completely failing to utilize the opportunities available to them. Just as suddenly, Jiang Ting bowed to the ancestor and thanked him for this rebirth. He vowed that if necessary, he would go through fire and water at any risk. The ancestor laughed at this. He said that he had been the guardian of the dragon's blood for 500 years, and his clan had been worshipping him for many years, and therefore could do without bowing. He explained that their family had managed to open the vessel and the dragon's power had come out because of it. The ancestor ordered Jiang Ting to get up and said that he didn't like disturbances in the clan. But it was already good that Jiang Ting was able to call him out by calling out to Uncle Jiang, to which Jiang Ting replied that the younger generation was ashamed for disturbing his uncle's peace, then asked how the power of the dragons had been sealed. The ancestor said that we must not forget how foreigners hundreds of years ago. Jiang Ting interrupted his ancestor asking if he meant Panlong Palace, and the man replied that the story was exactly about him. He said that in those years the Panlun Palace was on the offensive, but no one knew of their strength. All that was known was the abnormal supernatural combat power of the Panlun. In a short period of time, the palace was able to crush all the major families and take away all the immortal resources. And in the end, it was the Jiang family that fought against the Panlun. The Panlun used force and at first won the battle. At that time, the ancestor was at the peak of his power. Just one step away from immortality, he was confident that he could destroy Panlun. And so he risked everything and came to the Jiang family's graveyard in search of an ancient burial site. He was very nervous, but he was able to find the ancestor and recklessly awakened his spirit, and despite the inhibitions, destroyed the physical body and sealed the spirit in that place. He fought without fear of dying, but the outcome of the battle was still unknown. With this story, Jiang Ting was still convinced that all those legends about the dragon power flowing in their veins were true. Afterwards, the ancestor personally confirmed it. He admitted that after realizing the full power of the Jiang family, he had hope for a victorious outcome. Jiang Ting told him that the one who kept the power of the dragon's martial strength was now living in the Panlong Palace, and his father had realized this. And even though he was also its bearer, he was not a true dragon. And even so, he was a genius of his time. His father wanted to reclaim what was rightfully theirs, but he was injured by Panlun's men, causing him to become infamous. Jiang Ting swore that he would not let the Panlun Palace live in peace until he atoned for what he had done. After listening to the story, the ancestor told Jiang Ting that he would give him something that would help him awaken his dragon power, the 9 secrets of dragon reversal. Since this technique is mentally transmitted, the Panlun Palace will never get to it. One day, Jiang Ting will have the chance to become the true guardian of the dragon's power and defeat Panlong. Jiang Ting said that he couldn't wait, and so he would start studying in the Forest of Ice and Flame right away. After a while, in the vicinity of the Forest of Ice and Flame, something exploded and a large column of smoke could be seen. The forefather ordered Jiang Ting to stop and never use this technique again. Jiang Ting asked why, for with this technique, his father could kill, and the ancestor interrupted him, starting to tell him that martial arts were divided into 9 spheres according to levels: breath disciple, might warrior, skeleton teacher, blood mentor, pulsation elder, brainhead, heart ruler, life emperor, and soul honored. The level of the honorable one was only known from legends, and no one had ever been able to reach it. Heavenly Lung Quan is a secret technique of the Jiang family, and he needs to reach at least the skeletal level to train it. Otherwise, he will cripple himself and die the second time. After these explanations, Jiang Ting realized that this was the reason why his blood had dispersed and his body had become weak. The forefather asked him to calm down, as he would personally be able to help with the training. The forefather promised to teach Jiang Ting the Yang Palm technique, as this hand position suited his fire blood circulation. It would nourish and strengthen it. After which he handed over the descendant technique, Yang Palm mid-level. From the middle there is a movement towards the opponent. On the 9th time of concentration with a short movement, the strike perfects the boundaries. Jiang Ting told himself that he no longer wanted to live peacefully, and he needed to reach his maximum strength as he was suddenly attacked by the boars. Somewhere nearby, the girl told her brother that on the next hunt, she would not let him miss such prey, and he agreed, for Yaoshan was the ruler's favorite. The girl asked Yaoshan if it would be dangerous this time, and the latter asked Zhao to be quieter, as suddenly lightning smelled something and immediately ran deep into the forest, and the girl ran after him. Meanwhile, Jiang Ting was already meditating and said, 9 transformations or 9 changes. I transform into a hermit and bathed in blood, awaken the true dragon. Finishing the meditation, he was very happy with the result, for he was able to overcome 3 levels at once. The ancestor explained that it was his nature to do so, as the 9 secrets of dragon circulation was the main technique for their kind, and it was peerless. Jiang Ting recognized that his speed was even too fast and said that he needed to be even-keeled. After all, the enemies around the forest were quite weak, while at the same time, it was unknown what was deep within the forest. Just as suddenly a dog came running up to him, followed by a girl who happened to hear that he was going deep into the woods. She explained that he would encounter many things unexplained, and therefore it was dangerous for him to go alone, after which she offered to keep him company. Jiang Ting thanked her for the invitation as suddenly the rest of her group reached them, and their chief turned to the girl named Xiao Nan and said that they had enough people on their team. However, he didn't mind taking another man at all, provided of course that he knew how to hunt, which made his attendants start laughing. The girl explained to her brother that going into the woods alone was too dangerous, and the more people, the more help. But he refused, saying he didn't want to waste his energies protecting other people. As he passed by, he asked Jiang Ting how he even dared to mess with him. He thought that the man had had enough of life. Liu Munan asked Jiang Ting not to be angry with her brother, because he was not really angry at all, to which Jiang Ting replied that the words of the girls were always very weighty to him, and therefore he could not disagree. Suddenly, Yaoshan asked why she was still talking to him. After all, at the slightest danger, he would immediately flash his heels and be killed while escaping. Liu Munan apologized to Jiang Ting for this, because she had originally offered to take him with them. Then she tied a whistle to his hand and explained that it belonged to her Liu family. If anything happened to him, he just had to blow the whistle, and she would come to him immediately. Following the fleeing Liu Munan, the ancestor complained that he hadn't smelled the nasty smell of love in 500 years. Jiang Ting asked not to say that. After all, she was just a girl who showed friendliness, and caring for others had become her habit, and he hopes her journey will come without any problems. Just as suddenly, the ancestor said that the thing around the guy's neck was quite unusual, and that it could both bring riches and cause a major disaster. Jiang Ting said that it was time for them to go to the forest of ice and flame as well, and the ancestor asked him to hurry up, because a lot of spiritual energy would be expended, and he might not be able to endure it and fall into anabiosis. A forest of ice and flames. Jiang Ting chased after the fire wolf and shouted for it to stop, after which he used Yan's palm, releasing a ball of flame from his hand. But suddenly the wolf turned to ashes in an instant, and so he asked how such a thing had happened. The ancestor explained that his blood and the forest wolf's blood were incompatible, and even 5 strokes of the yang palm was enough to wipe it into powder. Suddenly, Jiang Ting noticed something strange left of the wolf. The ancestor told me that it was a Yaodan pill, a pill of immortality. Any unclean creature that lived to a certain phase would accumulate energy in its body and produce Yaodan inside its body. But a person can't directly absorb it inside his body, as the consequences are scary to even imagine. Turning around, he was amazed that, having not listened to the story to the end, Jiang Ting had already eaten this pill. Suddenly his body began to be enveloped by blue energy, which was quite strange. The ancestor recognized that although the Yaodan itself was extremely strong, and a mere human would not be able to refine it, but the abilities of Jiang Ting's body were truly unimaginable. Suddenly a loud howl was heard from afar, and Jiang Ting immediately realized that it wasn't for nothing. In the icy part of the forest, the ice wolves had already massacred some people and were already heading towards the remnants of the squad. The frightened Yaoshan shouted that he didn't want to die here from the wolves, and after a moment, he came up with a plan. He raised the blade to Liu Munan's neck, and when asked what he was doing, Yaoshan called her a stupid mumbler and ordered her to stay here as bait, and if she tried to cheat, he would personally cut her into pieces. He was glad that even though this pack was strong, they weren't paying attention to him, And since they were focused on this idiot, he had a chance to escape. Thinking about it made him laugh. He couldn't wait any longer for those wolves to devour her. Then he ran as far away from them as possible, shouting to Lu Munyan that he would tell Lu's family about her brave death. Suddenly something happened that none of them expected. Jiang Ting jumped out of nowhere and used his yang palm to sizzle one of the wolves. Liu Munan thanked Jiang Ting for saving her, and he asked her to hide behind him. Yao Shan was angry that a mere servant girl was honored to be rescued and shouted to the wolves to deal with this shameful beast right away. Jiang Ting asked the ancestor why those wolves were staring at Liu Munan, but the ancestor didn't answer. He realized it was as if the wolves were under hypnosis and remembered an ancestor saying something about disaster. He asked Liu Munan what happened here as she suddenly shouted for him to be more careful, and they were simultaneously attacked by all the wolves, from which Jiang Ting immediately used his bloodline power and tried to cover Liu Munan. Scared by what she saw, Liu Munan fell to her knees and Jiang Ting asked her not to be scared of it since it was all him. The wolves weren't going to stop and began to chew through the dragon, and in a moment they had already begun to gnaw on his hands, which made him realize that these wolves would stop at nothing. Liu Munan thanked Jiang Ting for his help, but admitted that she couldn't watch him get killed, and since it was her that the wolves wanted, she would give what they wanted. Liu Munan got up from the ground and told Jiang Ting that he absolutely had to survive, and immediately ran away, from which the wolves detached themselves from Jiang Ting and rushed towards Liu Munan. But moments before the bite, Jiang Ting lunged forward and immediately grabbed Liu Munan. Then he pulled her to him and put his arm around her, telling her not to run away. And the wolves once again began to claw their fangs and claws into Jiang Ting. Yao Shan, who was watching from the side, couldn't wait for both sides to weaken, because then he would be able to take away Yu Yao's vessel unhindered. Jiang Ting was trying to figure out why the wolves kept trying to chase after her. He realized that he had missed something. Liu Munan began to beg Yao Shan to save Jiang Ting while she would distract the wolves from him. Hearing about Jiang's distraction, Ting had a flash of light. He realized that it was the ancestor who had talked about how it was the amulet that could bring disaster, and realized that this fatty had originally plotted his intrigue. Yao Shan refused Liu Munan as he thought it was a joke, and reminded her that his life was much more important than this brat. Suddenly, Jiang Ting used the 9 secrets of dragon reversal, unleashing the power of the bloodline. After which, the red dragon scattered the surrounding wolves in the blink of an eye. Yao Shan was surprised by what he saw, for the blood that was just now gushing from Jiang Ting's wounds suddenly stopped. Jiang Ting told Liu Munan that they would break through, and asking her not to move, removed her amulet. After which he tossed it aside, getting rid of the wolf problem. Following the amulet, he threw the blade, shouting to Yao Shan that it was now his toy. A moment later, the blade nailed the amulet to Yao Shan's chest. Yao Shan was shocked by this. He shouted to Jiang Ting that he would regret if he killed him. After all, he is the main heir. After which he looked into Jiang Ting's eyes and realized that this person's gaze was far more terrifying than some wolves. Yao Shan said that he was an heir from the famous Yao family of Jihua, and they could not do that to him. After all, if a single hair falls from his head, they will die a painful death. Hearing this, Jiang Ting disregarded his origin and said that he was from the Zhang family. After that, the wolves still jumped on their new target, preparing to take her life. Yao Shan demanded of Jiang Hongting with Liu Munan that they save him, otherwise he would take revenge on them for it. But when they were about to leave, he started begging them for help, screaming that he was wrong. On the way away from the battle site, Liu Munan asked Jiang Ting to let her go. After that, she started to apologize for causing him to get hurt, but he asked her not to worry about it. Yao Shan could hardly survive in the wolf's jaws, but if someone threatened her, she should say that Jiang Ting had killed Yao Shan. He explained that he was going through a bad time and therefore had no reason to be happy as it was, so he wanted to at least see her off. He pointed out the way out of the forest, and since the danger was over, he bid her adieu. And Liu Munan promised him that one day they would definitely meet. Meanwhile, at the Zhang family cemetery, Zhang Tianlong's followers informed him that Jiang Ting was nowhere to be seen. Jiang Ping told his brother that Jiang Ting couldn't have run far away, but the latter had to disagree since he wasn't here after all. And since that was the case, he had a way to make Jiang Ting look for them himself. He suggested that the brothers destroy the cemetery. Back at the cemetery, Jiang Ting was stunned by what he saw and kneeled down to beg forgiveness from his father and mother. After all, they had dared to abuse their grave, and so he was not going to let them live. After a while, Jiang Bao, who was on guard, saw that Jiang Ting had decided to come after all. In blocking his path, he decided to give advice to Jiang Ting, namely to stop where he stands. But Jiang Ting was clearly not in the mood, and so he asked Jiang Bao to get out of the way. Jiang Bao took off his hat and apologized to Jiang Ting using the Panther Pulse, after which he threw aside his hat and immediately lunged at Jiang Ting. But Jiang Ting was easily able to block Jiang Bao's attack, and using the power of the bloodline, he threw him away, once again ordering him out of the way. Then he told Jiang Bao that the latter was capable of more, and his father justifiably valued him. But Jiang Bao was not going to stop and once again asked Jiang Ting to stop, because he should know that this was a trap and there was no way he could survive. He advised him to wait for Jiang Yang and Jiang Zi to return, and only then fight them. To which Jiang Ting replied that it was too late, and that he couldn't call himself a man if he couldn't put an end to the perpetual bullying. Looking at the back of the receding Jiang Ting, Jiang Bao rejoiced at the strength that the young master was able to gain in just a few days. But unfortunately, it was clearly not enough. Meanwhile, in the city, one of the guards asked why they had to guard Jiang Ping, after which the second guard called him an idiot, because it was logical that he would come after him first, and they would not leave Jiang Ting alive. Jiang Baihe sobbed sitting in front of his son. He was thinking about how to help him as his wounds were still not healing. And Jiang Ping began to reprimand the one for sobbing like a girl. After all, he was still alive. Jiang Ting suddenly shouted to Jiang Ping to meet him, which made Jiang Ping smile because Jiang Ting had come right into the trap. Suddenly, Jiang Ting used the piercing the door guard using the exquisite sun's fist, and began taunting the guard who thought he could defeat him. After which he turned to Jiang Ping and said that today he would end this once and for all. But Jiang Baihe complained to Jiang Ting for what he had done to his son, and now he dared to break into their house. So he rushed over to Jiang Ting, wanting to show the brat where he belonged. Jiang Ting instantly reacted to this attack and immediately used his bloodline power to block the attack. But Jiang Baihe smirked at this and called the ignorant brat, and sticking the needle into the dragon said that using blood pulse is extremely dangerous. After which Jiang Ping began to laugh out loud at this, for all this meant that the blood pulse would soon return to the master. Jiang Ting was shocked that some stud was able to suppress his dragon power. Therefore, he decided to attack Jiang Baihe to release his hard-won strength. But the latter only said that this fight was too easy and used the pulse of the bull. After which the bull painfully landed on Jiang Ting's back. Jiang Ting asked Jiang Baihe why he was giving way to evil for a measly gain. After all, he was the eldest in their family. He replied that his son was everything to him and therefore he could not do otherwise. Jiang Ping shouted at his father to stop talking and took away Jiang Ting's pulse, in response to which the latter decided to remind him that there would be no turning back. But Jiang Ping asked his father if he wanted him to remain disabled like this, and if he still didn't kill Jiang Ting, someone else would. And stabbing his finger into his palm, Jiang Baihe said that he was only doing it for his sake. Whereupon he said that by sacrificing his blood, he was invoking a black omen. And as soon as a drop of blood hit the stud, the bud on the tip opened. Jiang Ping asked his father not to be afraid of this, promising that he would never leave him. A black talisman appeared in front of Jiang Baihe, and he asked it to return his son's pulse. Only after seeing this talisman did Jiang Ting realize what it was. It belonged to the Panyong house. Having fallen on hard times, the House of Panlong began to use a forbidden talisman with which they deprived people of their blood pulse. With this talisman, the master's strength was unimportant, and the Jiang family labeled it the Black Omen Talisman. Jiang Ting asked what it was all for. Then Jiang Banhe asked if he really wanted to know that, and started pulling out Jiang Ting's pulse. Jiang Ting thought that since Jiang Bai was related to the Panlong house, he must know something about his father's death, so there was no time to waste. Jiang Ting called out to the ninth dragon, causing it to stir and a stiletto flew out. After which, Jiang Ting ordered the fire serpent to return to him. But Jiang Baihe intensified the effects of the Black Omen Talisman, sucking his pulse faster and faster. But because of this, his pulse started to get sucked in as well. Jiang Ting told Jiang Baihe not to do that, or else his pulse would disappear too. He said that Jiang Ping's strength wasn't worth it. Jiang Ping said that Jiang Feifeng had oppressed them, and now the hour of reckoning had come. He shouted that it would be a mercy to kill him, but unfortunately in his death a pulse would also be lost. To which Jiang Ting replied that it was his own fault, as he continued to hide like a coward, like a lowlife hiding behind other people's backs. Jiang Baihe ordered Jiang Ting to surrender, for there was no point in him fighting. He explained that when his son became stronger, the entire island of Panlun would submit to him. But Jiang Ting ridiculed him. He said that it won't happen since Jiang Ping is just a weakling. Jiang Baihe ordered him to shut up. He said that Jiang Ting had no right to talk about him, and therefore he should just die, saying goodbye to his pulse. Suddenly, all of Jiang Ting's pulse had already almost come out, causing him to scream loudly in pain. Meanwhile, Jiang Bao was carefully observing the situation inside the house, but he wasn't going to act yet as there was still no chance. Jiang Tinghe's house. Jiang Tianlong asked Jiang Tinghe if Jiang Tinghe was worried. Then the latter asked if Jiang Baihe would kill him. Jiang Tianlong explained that Jiang Baihe was strong enough that Jiang Ting couldn't match him, but for a different outcome, he had prepared arrows capable of piercing anything. Devoid of a pulse, Jiang Ting fell exhaustedly without reaching his goal. Jiang Baihe said that even if his son couldn't leave this cruel continent, he didn't want anyone to command him. Jiang Ping chuckled and took out a crossbow from under the blanket and told his father that it was time to wrap things up. And aiming his crossbow at Jiang Ting, he said that Jiang Ting was nothing but an empty shell, so he had no choice but to die. Realizing that his hour was up, Jiang Ting tried to touch his amulet and apologize to his father. After all, he had failed to get his revenge, and his life would end so simply. Just as suddenly, the amulet around Jing Ting's neck glowed, and the arrow fired from the crossbow was stopped right in front of Jing Ting. Jiang Baihe and Jiang Ping were shocked by this. They couldn't understand who had repelled the arrow. Suddenly, the arrow that had stopped at the barrier turned around and aimed straight at the talisman, from which Jiang Baihe, who had not been able to react in time, was stunned due to the victory being snatched from his hands. Jiang Ping couldn't believe that destruction was even possible, and Jiang Baihe fell to the floor exhaustedly. He shouted to his father that the talisman was too valuable and therefore needed to be restored. But the man apologized to his son. He told him that the talisman could not be restored, and since it was weakened, he would not be able to help. Jiang Ping was angry because he could no longer recover his pulse and started firing at Jiang Ting. But this time, the arrows that collided with the barrier were destroyed. Immediately after that, a beam from the sky struck directly at Jiang Ting, and the voice that came along with it informed everyone that Jiang Ting was the true head of the family. And people like them will never kill him. When Jiang Bao heard this voice, he smirked as this voice was familiar to him. Jiang Tinghe said that it was Jiang Kaifeng's voice, and Jiang Tianlong since he had prepared to kill Jiang Ting, but he somehow escaped. Their plan has failed, but since Jiang Ting hasn't reached the master rank, there are still many ways to kill him. But now it's best for them to lay low. Jiang Kaifeng asked his son to wake up, and he recognized the voice and replied that he could hear it, except that he no longer had a pulse. Jiang Kaifeng ordered him to look at himself. He asked if Jiang Ting had forgotten what he had been taught, and Jiang Ting replied, "Fulfill what he promised, never give up, keep his word, and do no harm." Jiang Ping walked up to Jiang Ping and called him lucky. After all, he was a young master with a useless pulse, and even so, he manages to survive when his life is on the line. Jiang Ping sobbed and asked him why he was so unlucky. Suddenly, a knock was heard and Jiang Bao flew into the room through the door, who immediately plowed Jiang Ping to the ground, saving Jiang Ting. He reminded Jiang Ping that he had angered the ancestors, so he should stop shooting and wait for the head of the family to arrive. After a short time, the clan members who were nearby gathered in the room and discussed what had happened, namely that Jiang Ping had abused the tombstone of Jiang Ting's parents. Jiang Ting had come to take revenge on him, and even though he had come to his death, he had survived. After a while, the head of the meme did come to them, and everyone bowed down to him. Upon seeing him, Jiang Ping immediately jumped up and started asking him for help. But the one only told off Jiang Ping for what he had done. He asked if he could fix it. And Jiang Ping shouted that it was because they had all abandoned him, and he was ordered to. Suddenly, Jiang Tianlong hit him with a fan and ordered him not to make excuses. Jiang Qinghe explained that his insolence had angered his ancestors, and Jiang Bai-he had not only failed to raise a worthy heir, but had also contributed to the worst crimes, and would therefore be stripped of his privileges and imprisoned, which Jiang Bao called a very wise decision, and the rest of the clan also supported it. Jiang Tinghe revealed that the situation in their family was extremely troubling, and since they had all seen what inaction led to, he no longer saw the point in delaying the duel. He announced that the duel would take place in 7 days' time, and Jiang Ting, as the young master of their family, would participate in it. Jiang Bao asked the former head not to allow the young master to participate in the duel, to which Jiang Tinghe replied that the young master himself felt it was necessary, otherwise he wouldn't have a chance to prove his strength. Jiang Ting thanked him for the invitation and proudly accepted it. Jiang Ting chatted with his ancestor at his parents' restored tombstone. Pradoka assured Jiang Ting that he should refuse to participate in the duel, and Jiang Ting couldn't understand why he should refuse. He asked if his pulse was gone forever, to which the ancestor replied that the duel was a trap to force Jiang Ting to make a mistake and die. He explained that going into battle was the same as suicide, since his pulse had not yet recovered after using the Black Omen talisman on him. Jiang Ting had been told by his ancestor that he would always have the opportunity for revenge, so it was better to retreat now, although he might have had one way. Hearing this, Jiang Ting asked what it was, and if he had a chance after all, he was going to end them once and for all. He shouted that he must not miss the opportunity to defeat them, and therefore he must try this method. But the ancestor ordered him to come to his senses, because this way was very dangerous, and Jiang Ting had too little chance of surviving. Jiang Ting told the ancestor that his father still remembered him, and that was why he couldn't deviate from his goal and let him down. The ancestor explained that he couldn't let him die because he had too much invested in him, so he advised him to give up, because Jiang's family couldn't be saved, so it was better for them to rot away, but without them. Jiang Ting kneeled down and addressed the ancestor again. He said that it was better to die than to live a life of ignominy. Hearing of the descendants' determination, the ancestor trembled. He asked Jiang Ting to remember that death would take everything from him. But he was not going to give up and shouted loudly that he had made the final decision. The ancestor dejectedly bowed his head and told him that since Jiang Ting was so stubborn, then they'll have to make their way to Chushu. After a while, a crowd of people had gathered outside the apothecary, and everyone just wanted to buy purification potions. Duo announced to them that these potions had run out, but they could offer something else. But the people demanded the purification potion, for the hour of the duel was already approaching, and so they were willing to pay even double the price. One of the assistants advised him not to miss out on a customer willing to pay double, so Duo asked him to wait while he conferred with his grandfather. On the second floor sat a man pondering the fate of one man, for he remembered his youth, where he too was always getting into trouble. Although Li Yan thought that person was just another hero, it was still a pity to get rid of him. Just as suddenly, Duo burst into his room asking if the batch of potions was ready, in response to which Li Yan counted him out for entering without knocking. Duo explained that the customers were already offering double payment for the potions, and they only needed a small amount. And if they sold to them, Li Yan wouldn't need to worry about retirement anymore. From which Li Yan laughed and said that it wasn't as simple as he thought. But Duo wasn't going to forfeit his profits, so he decided to do everything himself and promised that he would take care of his grandfather himself. But to his dismay, there were no potions inside the potion maker. He was shocked to see that there were phoenix eggs inside. He asked his grandfather why he had turned them into chickens. Li Yan chuckled at this and asked his grandson to calm down and talk, because these chickens are so cute. After which he explained that he had already ordered the ingredients and that they were promised to arrive in a few days. After which he asked if everyone was here for the blood purification potion, to which Duo replied that there was only one such person. It was Jiang Ting, and he had come to get herbs and endurance elixir, and afterward he had gone to the west. After realizing that Jiang Ting had left towards the wasteland, Li Yan asked why he had gone to such a ruinous place. Duo admitted that it seemed to him as if Jiang Ting was running away from something. As they say, the most dangerous places are the safest. At this moment, Li Yan realized that he had underestimated this kid, for he was going to use the wasteland lightning. And he most likely has a master mentoring him, which was very interesting. In the west of the island, there is a stormy wasteland. In that place, the house of Pan Long confronted its enemies, and the place is called Chushu. In Chushu, nature has forever lost its once picturesque diversity, and there's a lightning barrier surrounding it. A lot of people have died trying to get through it. But using the 9 dragon techniques, he would be able to absorb the energy of the wasteland, thereby restoring his pulse. And the ancestor was afraid that this was the only way to regain Jiang Ting's strength. Jiang Ting suggested that it would cost him a lot of money, and the ancestor replied that it was unfortunately true. After all, in addition to having to endure a lightning strike, an equally dangerous absorption process would follow, and so he had to be careful. Lost souls are not very hospitable, and many wizards have killed themselves before lightning could even flash in the sky. And since there was nothing the ancestor could do to help Jiang Ting, he advised him to remember that every step he took could be his last. After listening to the teacher's story, Jiang Ting said that he had no other and stepped onto the wasteland lands. The further Jiang Ting stepped, the more often he was struck by lightning, and his teacher could only give him moral support. But seeing the black flames beneath the descendant's feet, he realized that the wasteland had awakened the demons within him. A moment later, a silhouette formed out of the flames and mocked Jiang Ting. Jiang Ting shouted at the demon to shut up and stop interrupting him. But the latter only moved closer and laughed at the fact that as a strong spirit, Jiang Ting was still the same weakling. A nothingness in which there is no use, and therefore he is unworthy to own it. Jiang Ting once again ordered the demon to shut up. He told him that he wanted to protect his father's name and honor. Hearing this, the demon laughed again and noticed that Jiang Ting was lying, from which he immediately began to justify himself. The demon told him that Jiang Ting was just a burden on someone else's shoulders, and that Uncle Jiang was wasting his time, and even his father had blundered by protecting such a weakling. Compared to everyone, Jiang Ting was only a pitiful creature. Seeing this, the ancestor asked Qin Yu what he would do in the heart of the storm if he couldn't resist even now. He wanted to ask if Jiang Ting would give up so easily. The demon kept laughing at Jiang Ting, who had fallen to his knees before him. And in that moment, Jiang Ting realized that he was nothing without his strength, and only lived because of his father. He thought he was a hero, but really only consoled himself with that thought. From what he heard, the demon was glad that he recognized everything and started laughing even louder. After all, the man in front of him was nothing but a loser. Jiang Ting agreed with the demon for being a solid disappointment. But that's exactly why he has to keep going. For the sake of those who believe in him, he can no longer let them down. He agreed that he needed to apologize to his father, but not now. After all, he had to get up and face his enemies. Seeing Jiang Ting's determination, the demon was disappointed, for there was no way he would give up. The ancestor shouted to Jiang Ting to make it to the heart of the storm, and he would regain his pulse. As suddenly a noise was heard, and turning around, the ancestor was shocked at what he saw. After all, the Shaotian lion that could only be found in the forest of ice and flame was towering above them. But the strangest thing was that it was here. At the same time, Zhang Tianlong opened the cage with the lion cub, thinking that Jiang Ting was too lucky, because even he couldn't kill it. But some spirit still dared to help such a loser. But the herbs he bought were impregnated with the blood of Xiaotian's lion cubs. And so he will simply die without any chance of escape from the enraged lion. This only meant that the hour of his death had come, and since Jiang Ting would not return, Zhang Tianlong would become the young master from now on. Outside Panlun City, Zhang Zi asked Zhang Yang to hurry up as they had to return before the fight started. Zhang Yang replied that this was his limit, as he had been running for 3 days and 3 nights. Zhang Zi rushed Zhang Yang since Zhang Bao had warned them that Jiang Ting was now in great danger, and therefore Zhang Zi couldn't stop worrying about him. But Zhang Yang reminded her that they were strangers to Zhang Bao, and therefore he was unreliable. Zhang Zi said that they must protect Jiang Ting no matter what, and he asked her not to worry so much, because since they would arrive, Jiang Ting would definitely be safe. Lanlong City, the arena. Zhang Tianhu offered to help Zhang Tianlong with his training, which he couldn't refuse, and thanked him for the opportunity to be trained by someone with such a level. Zhang Tianhu explained that he had returned to see the dignified young master take his rightful place. Many of the people present were already regretting joining the state, because their enemy will be Zhang Tianlong, and the current head is doing everything just to secure his son's position. And all they want is Jiang Ting's death, so the young master's position is Zhang Tianlong's position. Zhang Tianlong thought that the people around him were only having idle conversations, and Jiang Tianhe replied that they were just drooling, but only Jiang Tianhe would become the young master, and therefore he needed to kill everyone who got in the way. If Jiang Ting wasn't Jiang Kaifeng's son, he would have been dead long ago. Suddenly, a silhouette appeared above the buildings. He asked how Jiang Tianhe dared to say such a thing. And in just a moment, Jiang Yang was right on top of Jiang Tianhe and was about to teach him a lesson. But he used the power of his bloodline and was able to block the blow. Then he told Jiang Yang that he was still a reckless brute, while Jiang Zi was becoming more and more beautiful, a truly worthy daughter of their family. Immediately afterward, Jiang Zi lifted Jiang Tianhu's chin with her foot and demanded that he leave Jiang Ting alone. Jiang Tianlong said, a little embarrassed at how aggressive the latter was at his appearance. Jiang Zi ordered Jiang Tianlong to stop pretending, for she knows everything about his true intentions. But Jiang Tianlong covered his smirk with a fan and suggested that she ask Jiang Ting about everything herself, of course, provided he could come. People started beating drums announcing the start of the competition, and the announcer shouted that only the best martial artist could win, and therefore the Jiang family's duel would start right now. He, Jiang Hu, would be their current ruler. He said that today's fight would be truly unique, as all the members of the Jiang family were here to compete for the grand prize of 1,000 spirit stones. The spectators chanted loudly from such a reward, and meanwhile Qian Duo questioned his grandfather why he chose to watch the competition today. After all, he hates noisy places, but he only ignored him. Jiang Hu used his groundhog blood and shouted out that all the contestants had already gathered and therefore they could greet them. The Jiang family's fight was the biggest festival every year, as you can see the true essence of combat through their battles. And a new generation of the Jiang family has come together to face each other in this fierce competition. And among other things, young master Jiang Ting will be joining the bout this year, so they should welcome him as he will give the opening speech. But Jiang Ting still didn't come on stage, hence Jiang Zi wondered why he still wasn't here. The audience began to ask why they need him, because even the blood flows in the veins of this weakling, and since he ran away, it is better to start without him, as no one cares about him. Qianduo asked his grandfather his opinion on whether Jiang Ting would come or run away, to which he replied that he wasn't sure, because it would take 2 days to get out of the wasteland, and he simply didn't have enough time. The exception was that he could fly, but he himself hoped that Jiang Ting would make it in time for the start. Jiang Hu got excited because the young master hadn't arrived yet, and therefore felt that the reception wasn't grand enough, and suggested that the audience give the young master another round of applause. Suddenly, one of the elders slapped his hand on the table and ordered them to stop it, for they had to suspend the feast because of a coward. Elder Jiang Shou thought it was ridiculous that a rude boy like Jiang Ting could become a young master that he couldn't be worthy of. Hence, he demanded that the fight start now. Elder Jianong asked Jianong Shou to wait a little longer. After all, Jiang Ting was their young master, and they couldn't just start without him, which made him resentful, because he wasn't going to take care of some piece of trash, while everyone present was much more competent than Jiang Ting. Jiang Shou recognized that Ling Ling was a strong fighter, but only Jiang Tianlong deserved the right to be a young master. Elder Jiang Yu ordered him to stop this trepidation, for as an assistant, he had dared to reveal his intentions too soon. He said that he doesn't care who becomes the young master, but Jiang Ting is Jiang Kaifeng's son, and therefore he has the right to do so. And if Jiang Shou has any objections, his head belongs to Jiang Yu. Jiang Shou was indignant. He asked if he really meant to say that Jiang Ting could just depend on Jiang Kaifeng for his entire life. The spectators watching the elders began to discuss what was going on, although they couldn't understand what they were arguing about since they were far away, but they were already beginning to assume that they were going to give the position to young master Jiang Tianlong. Jiang Yang was outraged from what he heard. After all, it was impermissible to take away Jiang Ting's position so easily. But Jiang Zi asked her brother not to be so reckless. After all, they don't know what's going on yet, so they need to assess the situation. And Jiang Yu, the most understanding of all the elders, will not let them do what they want. The spectators were already starting to lose patience. They demanded that they should just bring Jiang Tanglong over. Qianduo realized that Jiang He only supported his son, and Li Yan explained that the young master's position would ensure Jiang Tianlong's own position as the head of the family, After all, the term temporary head of the family had been haunting him for quite some time. Many of the spectators who had bet on Jiang Tianlong began to demand that he simply be labeled as a young master, and most of the spectators began chanting his name. And only Jiang Zi shouted to Jiang Ting that he should hurry back. Jiang Tianlong then jumped into the ring due to Jiang Qinghe ordering him to get down from the stage as he is not a young master, and Jiang Shou mocked that Qianlong was better than his father. But he asked his father to listen to him, because that's what everyone wants. So he declared himself a young master. Suddenly, a melon flew out of nowhere and hit Jiang Tianlong's face, from which they fell silent and looked up, where they saw the Xiaotian lion that had flown towards them for unknown reasons. After that, some people started to notice that someone was sitting on the lion, but because of the height, they couldn't see it. On the lion's back sat Jiang Ting, surprised that as soon as he changed sides, the young master repeated after him as well. Jiang Yang and Jiang Zi perked up their spirits seeing that Jiang Ting had come after all. Jiang Tianlong couldn't believe what was happening, because Yao Tian's lion was known for its cruelty and ferocity, making it impossible to tame. Jiang Ting descended onto the stage, and only then did everyone trust that it was Jiang Ting. He approached the elders and asked if they were going to greet their master. But Elder Jiang Shou hurriedly disappointed him. He revealed that Jiang Ting was no longer a young master. He was not too surprised and offered the elder a fresh Bing Lin melon, assuring him that it was not poison. And the elder reached for the melon, saying that bribes would not work on him. And therefore, as soon as the elder's hand was at the very melon, Jiang Ting instantly retracted it and pointed straight towards the elder, screaming that he should still have the face to eat her. Jiang Ting asked the elder if he had decided that Jiang Ting would be the young master. After which, one of the elders ordered Jiang Ting to let the elder go, but he suddenly heard a growl at his ear, from which he immediately fell to the ground and began to beg for salvation. Jiang Ting asked the elders where their arrogance had suddenly gone, and also ordered Jiang Qinghe not to take away his position while he was here. Jiang Qinghe reminded Jiang Ting that he hadn't won yet, to which the latter replied that he wouldn't embarrass them much since there were too many people around, and therefore he hoped that there wouldn't be a next time. Seeing Jiang Ting, Jiang Yu wondered how much he had matured to resemble his father. Jiang Ting thanked Jiang Yu for his trust, and the latter bowed to him in return, saying that he was honored to serve the young master. And while Jiang Tianlong was trying to figure out how Jiang Ting was able to survive in the lion's mouth, that one already knew by whom this was all set up, and therefore he knew that Jiang Tianlong wouldn't be able to understand what he was going through. Jiang Ting told Jiang Tianlong that he had used quite a few schemes to take away his position, but unfortunately, they had all failed. And since he is here after all, he advised Jiang Tianlong not to even think about it. But Jiang Tianlong ignored these words, saying that he had already heard enough of this, and had already realized that Jiang Ting was only capable of talking. After which Jiang Ting asked if he thought that someone who could only make plans deserved to be a young master. He admitted that he had always seen right through him, and no one cares whether he becomes a young master or not. They only care about the money that is bet on him. Looking at the young master unknown to them, some of the spectators wondered whether they were too early to bet, and some of them even started chanting Jiang Ting's name, which made Li Yan laugh as he felt that the wind had started to increase. Jiang Ting advised Jiang Tianlong to watch carefully as his support began to crumble. Only Jiang Tianlong wanted to say that he hadn't lost yet, as Jiang Ting extended his hand and offered to fairly win the duel to take his place. Jiang Ting thanked Jiang Tianlong for coming forward and then announced to everyone that the fight had begun, after which the cheers began to get louder and louder, and Jiang Ting apologized to his brother for taking away his glory. Just as suddenly, the lion started growling at Jiang Tianlong, and Jiang Ting asked him to stop, promising to get to the bottom of it and avenge him afterward. Immediately after that, the lion flew into the air and people started to admire it. Only Jiang Tianhu said that it didn't mean anything as he hadn't seen Jiang Ting so strong. Just as suddenly, Jiang Ting jumped off the stage and told Jiang Tianhu that he had almost forgotten about him. Sharp kicked him with a leg kick that he barely managed to block. Immediately after which, Jiang Zi jumped off Jiang Yang straight onto Jiang Ting. And after hugging him, she told him how much they were worried about him, and luckily he was still alive. And Jiang Ting asked why they had come back, and she immediately revealed that Jiang Bao had warned them that he was in danger. It was only at this moment that Jiang Ting realized why Jiang Bao had helped him back then. But still, now was not the best time to do so. Jiang Yang placed his heavy hand on Jiang Ting's head and asked him not to worry, for they had come to defend his position. Jiang Ting clapped his hand and said that there was no need for him to do so, because he had survived even at the most critical moment while they were not here. He asked them why they should help him, since it was better for them to concentrate on themselves. Jiang Yang explained that Jiang Zi was worried about her brother, and that's the only reason why they ran for 3 days without sleep, and he's doing this to them afterwards. To which he replied that if they didn't like it, they could just leave so as not to burden him. As suddenly Jiang Tianhe laughed. He thought it was interesting since he was acting so boldly even though the end was already near. Jiang Tianlong told his brother that Jiang Ting was being too defiant, in response to which Jiang Ting ordered them to shut up. And Jiang Zi asked him what happened to him that caused him to change so much. Jiang Tianlong admitted that he was almost scared already, but asked him not to think of him as if he didn't know his tricks, and therefore promised to pay him back later. He asked them not to think about the competition, as he wasn't going to let them all go alive anyway. Jiang Hu announced that all the competitors were ready and therefore the competition was about to begin. But this year, instead of Shiren, there would be something different in the first round since they had switched things up. In this year, they will use the most talented Huang Longtian Su Zhen. Jiang Yang asked why they decided to change things, and Jiang Zi assumed that they were targeting Jiang Ting. Just as suddenly, the ground in the arena shook and began to separate. After which a huge structure, Huang Longtian Su Zheng, rose up from the ground. Qian Duo thought that Huang Longtian Su Zhen sounded rather threatening, and Li Yan chuckled as he didn't expect to be able to see it even once more. Then he explained to his grandson that this was the Jiang family's most difficult test, and the last time they used it, most of the competitors were injured, and since no one passed it, it was abandoned. 100 years ago, it was used to kill people. Jiang Tianlong and Tianhe were already anticipating how he would fail the test, and Jiang Feng told Jiang Ting that no matter how strong he was, there was no way he could protect the people around him. So he wanted to see Jiang Yang die as soon as possible. But it would be a shame to kill a beautiful woman like Jiang Zi. Suddenly, Jiang Zi took Jiang Ting's hand and asked him not to think about it. After all, they weren't so weak, so she wanted to share the burden with him. And Jiang Yang reminded him that he still hadn't forgiven him, and therefore advised him not to continue like this, or else he wouldn't see any mercy. Jiang Hu announced Huang Longtian Su Zhen's discovery, and everyone immediately headed towards him. After looking at Jiang Ting, Jiang Tianhe was slightly inspired by their brotherly bond and asked Jiang Tianlong not to drag him down. Huang Longtian Su Zheng was created by a Jiang family elder who wanted to help cultivate martial artists to defeat the Panlong family house, and even though the difficulty was lowered every time, many still fell. Hence, this formation became a legend in the Zhang family. Qian Duo asked his grandfather if he was going off topic. After all, this was just a martial fight, and the Zhang family hardly wanted to destroy their heritage. To which the latter replied that if it was just a combat match, they wouldn't have the formation to use in the first place. Jiang Hu explained that the trial was divided into 3 levels, Wang Chuan, Gui Meng, and Sheng Mo. And to go from the Wang Chuan level to Sheng Mo, they needed to survive without using blood pulse until the incense stick burned out. Swords will fall from the ceiling to destroy 70 contestants, and those who make it to the next level must avoid this. And if someone does use a blood pulse, they will be penalized, causing them to slow down a lot. And since this is a deadly test, they can surrender by destroying their name tag. Jiang Ting realized that this duel was not that easy, as everyone had already prepared to use their battle pulse. But they were afraid of the punishment. They couldn't give up using blood pulse so easily since it was all they had, especially since this test was deadly. After thinking for a bit, Jiang Ting was able to find some flaws in the rules. After all, with such a height, they just needed to use their blood pulse to jump. Otherwise, they would be killed by the swords. Immediately afterward, Jiang Tianlong said that he was absolutely right and said that he wasn't going to wait for him, and therefore offered to meet at the next level if Jiang Ting survived. Suddenly, hundreds of swords began to rain down from the ceiling, aiming straight at Jiang Tianlong and his accomplices. And Jiang Ting couldn't understand why he had decided to use his blood pulse so quickly. Suddenly, Jiang Tianhe ordered to protect Jiang Tianlong, and several of the participants covered Jiang Tianlong with themselves without a second thought. After which, Tianlong and the others got to the next level, pushing off the corpses. Some of the participants were inspired by Tianlong and decided to try to walk the same way. Zhang Tianlong will be the first to rat, but here and now everyone will be done with it. Just as suddenly, Jiang Zi told Jiang Ongting to look at the center of the arena, bringing him out of his musings. A vigilante appeared in the center of the arena who was going to punish the participants for using blood pulse. Then the vigilante began to put the punishment into action, turning the battlefield into an inferno. And Jiang Ting immediately ordered Jiang Zi and Jiang Yang to hide behind him. And a moment later, the entire battlefield was covered in elemental attacks. And Zhang Tianlong watched this from on high, mocking Jiang Ting, who couldn't do anything because of his weak pulse. But to his Zhang's dismay, Ting was easily able to block the Kara with fire without even using his pulse. Jiang Zi took spirit from this, and Jiang Ting explained that this flame was incapable of bringing him harm since his element was fire, but it was an enemy to Jiang Yang's armor since it couldn't be detected. The participants who survived the punishment panicked and instinctively used the pulse, and therefore decided to use it until the very end, thinking it was the only way to survive. Jiang Ting ordered Jiang Yang to take Jiang Zi and ascend to the next level. But Jiang Zi rejected it, telling him that staying alone was too dangerous, but he asked that she trust him. After which Jiang Yang grabbed Jiang Zi and jumped with her, while she demanded that they stay with Jiang Ting. After securing the others, Jiang Ting thought about the rules, because although they prohibited the use of blood pulse, it was actually to hide the real solution. Meanwhile, Jiang Yang and Jiang Zi had reached the next level. Jiang Zi then asked Zhang Tianlong what he wanted from Jiang Ting, but the latter laughed and said that she was the 31st. Immediately afterward, Jiang Zi pulled that brat up by his collar and demanded an answer from him, to which he replied that the swords would kill 70 people, and if there were fewer on the ground, they would immediately fall. And if he wants to survive, he'd be best off surrendering, but his name tag might not work. Jiang Zi was about to hit Zhang Tianlong, but Jiang Yang stopped her, whereupon she told Qianlong that he would still pay for it. And he told her that there were thousands of swords from below, no matter how strong Jiang Ting was. He couldn't wait any longer. And Jiang Ting was only waiting for this, since he no longer considered it a challenge. Zhang Hu announced that everyone who had advanced to Guimeng's level had passed, but those at Wang Chuan's level would soon be disqualified. He also decided to remind them that destroying their name badge could save their lives. Meanwhile, Jiang Shou was laughing because Jiang Ting couldn't even pass the first level, while on the other hand, Zhang Tianlong had gotten an advantage in the beginning and would most likely win. Thinking of victory, Zhang Chenghe remembered how he had bribed a certain sect to deliver victory to Zhang Tianlong at any cost. Zhang Li, who studied in a foreign sect, thanked Zhang Chenghe for the reward and admitted that he only visited foreign lands to become more useful to his family. Zhang Tianlong wondered if Zhang Chenghe was overestimating a weakling like Jiang Ting. After all, without a pulse of blood, he was worthless. Jiang Qinghe explained to Tianlong that he needed to broaden his horizons as he didn't want to be seen as someone worse than Jiang Ting, whereupon Zhang Li asked the elder not to worry, as he would make sure that Jiang Ting didn't come back again. Presently, Zhang Li's abettor asked why they were just standing there and not attacking Jiang Ting, to which Zhang Li replied that Jiang Ting was acting too calm even after the level ended. Hearing the whispering nearby, Jiang Ting asked if they were trying to figure out how to kill him. He asked them to attack quickly, and he didn't care if it was a duel or a fight. Jiang Li offered Jiang Ting to break his name badge if he wanted to stay alive. Immediately afterwards, his accomplices rushed toward him, shouting that they had too little time for that, and that it was easier to kill him. While in the circle of enemies, Jiang Ting said that there were only two things they should remember. The first was that they should call him Young Master. Right after that, he dodged the attacks and said that the second thing they should remember was that he didn't even need a blood pulse to defend himself against the likes of them. Saying this, Jiang Ting jumped off the enemy's shoulders, making them feel insulted and were about to attack him. As suddenly he held up their badges and asked if they were really going to fight without their name badges. Jiang Li's accomplices couldn't realize when they lost their badges. And the worst part was that without them, they couldn't just leave the arena where swords would soon fall on them. Jiang Ting said that he could spare them. He then destroyed their badges and said that he hoped they would stop being cowards and start fighting like a man. Qianduo was surprised that Jiang Ting and the others left behind were actually going to survive the fall of the swords, and Li Yan revealed that 60 years, no one who had participated had been able to dodge all the swords. And at the same moment, thousands of swords sprinkled from the ceiling of Wang Chuan's level. Jiang Ting began to dodge them while in passing, feeling disgusted that Zhang Tianlong was using others for the sake of advancement. While being rained down with swords, the immobilized participants prayed for someone to save them. Getting close to the vigilante, Jiang Ting told Wang Chuan's spirit that his time had come. He didn't agree with using other people's lives to win, and since swords respond to blood pulse, he'll use it to save everyone left here. At the same moment, all the swords stopped for a second, immediately after which flew towards Jiang Ting. Meanwhile, Jiang Ting reached the vigilante and grabbed his staff. And as soon as the swords drew near, he leaped, taking the staff and the Avenger's hands with him, and at the same time taking the latter's life with hundreds of swords. Zhang Hu was amazed at such an unpredictable course of events as he was able to see, and commented on how their young master was able to overpower the vigilante. Zhang Tianlong couldn't believe what he heard, but at the same time, he couldn't see it in person to make sure, and Zhang Zi was happy that Jiang Ting was fine. Jiang Ting. The level-headed Wang Xuan continued to dodge and reflect the swords flying at him. As suddenly the sword he missed was able to break the vigilante's staff. Deprived of his weapons, Jiang Ting looked up into the sky and saw the remaining swords flying towards him. And after a moment, they all hit Jiang Ting, creating a smoke screen with it. Seeing this, Zhang Duo was amazed that the Zhang family had come up with something like this to kill all the participants. While silence hung around, people wanted to know what had happened there, and people at Guimeng's level wondered why everyone had gone so abruptly quiet. Jiang Ting's rescued participants wondered if their young master was still alive. Once the veil was dispelled, everyone could see that Jiang Ting had survived being rescued by Zhang Li and his accomplices. Jiang Ting was pleased that they had dared to do so, and the same bowed in thanks to him for saving their lives. It didn't take long to figure it out, and the rest of the participants went to bow to the young master. Jiang Shou said that although Jiang Ting didn't strike out, he didn't deserve the promotion since he destroyed their ancestral treasure, which is their disrespect. But Zhang Yu refuted his words, saying that the competition was created to select the best fighters, while Jiang Shou says that all Wang Chuan level competitors should die. Jiang Shou continued to insist on his point, proving that they had already lost and that they had no right to destroy everything just because of their weakness. Qianduo voiced the majority opinion, saying that Jiang Shou is already boring everyone, and he is only ruining the competition, and Li Yang added that he can't stop Jiang Ting with just words, and it's about time for... In the next instant, the ground beneath Jiang Ting's feet rose up. Jiang Ting told the eliminated people that even though they were eliminated, he would continue to fight for them. And following Jiang Ting, the remaining participants with their entire badges soared into the air. Qianduo was surprised that it actually worked, to which Li Yan replied that he wouldn't have expected it 60 years ago. After seeing the evidence, Zhang Yu told Zhang Shou that he was wrong after all, which made him boil with anger. Zhang Yang laughed, seeing Jiang Ting ascended towards them, soaring on the ground, and recognized that he was clearly not a miss. Climbing to the next level, Jiang Yu told Zhang Tianlong that he would have to pay for killing all those people, from which Tianlong let out a curse and promised Jiang Ting that this wasn't the end. Zhang Zi was surprised that Jiang Ting was able to guide so many people, and grabbing his hand, she offered to heal his wounds since he was surely having a hard time downstairs. But Jiang Ting refused to do so, and asking him not to worry, he reminded him that the next round would start soon. And just a moment later, Zhang Hu announced that Wang Chuan had been passed, and he also congratulated everyone who had passed. After which he explained that there would be 8 doors in Guimeng, and those who passed through them would be able to advance to Shen Mo level. But a maximum of 6 participants could enter one door, while Wang Chuan's level leaders could choose which door they would enter first. Each of these doors is dangerous in its own way, and therefore participants need to choose them wisely. Jiang Zi said that they needed to be careful of traps, and especially the people they would enter with. Zhang Hu said that to enter, they need to insert their badge into the door they want to enter, but once inserted, the badge can no longer be pulled out, and so they must choose wisely. After which he raised his hand and announced that the Guimeng level spanning would begin right now. Zhang Zi suggested going through the same door, but Jiang Ting said they should see what would happen first. And in the next instant, an energy burst out from the door nearby and headed straight for Jiang Ting, snatching the badge. Immediately afterward, the energy attracted the badge and inserted it into the door. Jiang Zi asked in a panic if he was okay, to which Jiang Ting replied that his name badge had just been taken away. One of the participants laughed off this and said that it was karma, as Jiang Ting only deserved death's door. Upon hearing it, some disciples were curious who this arrogant guy was, to which a disciple nearby replied that he was a complete lowlife, the most obscure member of the Jiang family, but nevertheless his ancestors had created this trial, and therefore he had the right to be angry. Jiang Liang told Jiang Ting that the doors of life leave the participant alive, while the doors of death take away life. Therefore, it was time for retribution from which he could not escape. Jiang Zi demanded Jiang Liang to shut up, but Jiang Ting asked to let him finish. Jiang Liang told him that he would give him some advice to dash his hopes. There are 3 easy doors, and they're opposite 3 difficult doors. 2 more doors are problematic, and the last one Jiang Ting got only guarantees unconditional death. He then admitted that Jiang Tianlong had arranged it for him, and since the other doors were already occupied, he had no other choice. Jiang Zi asked what the door of death does, to which Jiang Liang replied that it provides the most severe trials, and those who don't pass through it will perish. For centuries, all who have entered it have died inside, and he is not the only one who will encounter traps. Hearing this, Jiang Ting looked at the door and wondered why there were already 4 name badges here. He thought that if it was so dangerous here, it was probably the people sent by Jiang Tianlong, but he couldn't think of what he should do with the last place. Be that as it may, he decided not to involve the others and ordered Jiang Zi and Jiang Yang to go to the other doors. Jiang Zi asked why he wanted to die alone and why they couldn't help him, to which Jiang Ting replied that his orders would be better help and that he was not going to discuss it any further. Jiang Zi was about to change Jiang Ting's mind, but Jiang Yang stepped forward and said that he agreed that they should choose a different door. He asked them not to worry about Jiang Ting, as he had clearly gotten stronger. Jiang Tianhu was clearly surprised that Jiang Ting didn't even resist, while Tianlong realized that he didn't recognize the former Jiang Ting. While the remaining members were discussing that they should go after Jiang Tianlong, Jiang Liang wondered if Jiang Ting was listening to him for even a second. Jiang Zi recognized that Jiang Ting had indeed changed, but he seemed very aloof to her now. Jiang Tianlong admitted that it was quite nice of her to take care of Jiang Ting, immediately after which Jiang Zi attacked him with frosty spikes, demanding that he shut his mouth. Jiang Tianlong grinned from how evil Jiang Zi was and blocked her attack. Jiang Zi said she didn't mind taking him with her, but Jiang Tianhu asked her to stop and told her that their brothers had prepared a separate door for her. Tianlong said that Zhen Gu doesn't leave anyone alive, thus making Jiang Zi stunned. He then asked if she remembered what her father had been poisoned with. The poison of Zhen Gu seeps into flesh and bone and kills from the inside out, young master it or not. Hearing this, Jiang Zi ran to Jiang Ting since he obviously wouldn't be able to avoid being poisoned. Jiang Tianlong was pleased that she had decided to take advantage of the space left for her. After all, she made an excellent pawn. Jiang Feng, who was at the door, ordered the novices to follow all of Tianlong's orders, and Jiang Ping, who was at Du's door, warned the people that once they entered, they would not be allowed to hesitate. Jiang Yang, who was at Qin's door, said that although Jiang Ting was strong, he couldn't stand aside, so this entrance would be his. Hearing this, one of the participants asked him to watch his language. Jiang Tianhu, who was at Zhao's door, ordered his subordinates to stay behind so that he could handle everything himself. At Shang's door, the black-clothed man said to Jiang Shui, and the other man promised that he would protect her. And at Shen's door was Zhang Liang, discussing with himself that he would pass through it without any problems, for he had studied the mechanisms for too long. And now his finest hour had come. He was going to make everyone respect him. As soon as the students entered Shen's door, the number immediately changed to 0. Jiang Hu was astonished by this kind of outcome. All the participants who entered Shen's door were destroyed, which meant that the door was a trap. Hearing this, Tianlong thought that they were joking. After all, they were trying to succeed without sacrificing anything. After pondering, Tianlong looked at the creature ahead and wondered if he should sacrifice the humans. Tianlong's men were doing what they could to delay the Qin door beast. One of the wards informed Tianlong that he was able to block the creature's attack and asked Tianlong to help them. But to his dismay, Qianlong passed by, and without turning around, he said that he didn't need such weaklings, and that only idiots like Jiang Ting worried about such. As soon as Jiang Ting and the four unknowns passed through Shi's door, they began to prepare for a surprise attack. And a moment later, they pounced on Jiang Ting, shouting to the man that he should pay for his crimes against Jiang Qianlong. Moments before the attack, Jiang Ting turned around and blood immediately spurted out. Jiang Zi used the Ice Fox vessel to deal with Qianlong's assassins. Jiang Zi said that she was willing to accept any punishment once they finished the trial, but there was no way she could watch someone die from the same poison that killed her father. And shedding a tear, she said that she couldn't let Jiang Ting kill herself. Seeing her face, Jiang Ting fell into the frown at the fact that she also had such a side to her, then pulled himself together. He realized that he shouldn't have rejected her without a second thought, and that he had to show her that he could stand up for himself. He ordered Jiang Zi to follow him as this door was very dangerous. Walking a little further, Jiang Ting and Jiang Zi saw demons chained to the walls, and the further they went, the scarier the demons became, which could only mean one thing: this place is truly terrifying. Walking even further, Jiang Ting saw something he couldn't even describe. A vast array of red umbrellas spread out in front of him, hovering one above the other. And in front of them, a black-eyed woman with a white umbrella sat on a wooden coffin. The guard greeted Jiang Ting, calling him the sinner who had destroyed Wang Chuan. Wondering why he was called a sinner, Jiang Ting thought that this guard was very interesting. He said that she talked too much as a machine and suggested that she should get busy. The guardian was glad that Jiang Ting was eager to start the battle, and she immediately used the umbrella formation, Ghost Swordsman, causing her red umbrellas to turn into her loyal soldiers. Jiang Zi told Jiang Ting that all this was obviously not good and that they couldn't get through as there were too many of them. After that, Jiang Zi created a blade and explained that this blade was created from her blood vessel, and it would be useful even if it couldn't match the enemy's weapon. And once everyone was prepared, the guard ordered her swordsman to kill the enemies. A moment later, Zhang Hu announced something incredible, namely that one of the participants had already managed to pass Guimeng. And this is Jiang Tianlong. He is once again in the lead, which can only mean that he is indeed the strongest of the Zhang family. Jiang Tianlong looked at Shi's door number and was surprised that 2 people were still alive, and probably all of his people were already dead. Even so, he believed that Jiang Ting would not survive the ordeal, for he had filled his men's bodies with poison, and if they died, Jiang Ting and Jiang Zi would follow them. Meanwhile, at the gate of death, while Jiang Zi and Jiang Ting were fighting against the swordsman, poisonous insects began to emerge from the bodies of the slain participants. And when they get out of their bodies, they start spraying poison around them. Jiang Ting cut the first puppet, causing it to turn back into an umbrella. The guardian thought that the man destroying her creatures was indeed very powerful. But still, he didn't stand a chance against the hordes of puppets. Suddenly, the puppets started focusing flames in their mouths, surprising Jiang Ting. Immediately afterward, they soared into the air, creating a fiery coffin with their breath. The guardian said he talks too much, and it eventually led him to defeat. In the moment of danger, Jiang Zi used the ice lotus, defending herself from fire. Jiang Ting split the lotus and asked Jiang Zi to take over the dolls for now, while he would take care of that sturdy one. Jiang Ting used a devastating strike, bursting through all the puppets on the way. Immediately afterward, he used the graceful sun fist on the guardian. But the guardian lowered her umbrella, completely nullifying the attack. Jiang Ting realized that this umbrella clearly had an unusual strength, and since the guardian didn't really bother attacking, she probably wasn't that strong in battle. The guardian was angry at such a prank from Jiang Ting and immediately created many new swordsmen, which immediately watered Jiang Ting with new fire along with many needles. And Jiang Ting immediately began to dodge them after realizing that they were hiding weapons inside the flames. Just as suddenly, the swordsman behind began to gather fire for an attack. Jiang Zi shouted at him to be more careful and used an ice clot, freezing the swordsman with needles. Being surrounded by swordsmen, Jiang Ting revealed that their ways of attacking the guards were unique, and that the guardswoman could only control puppets, while her combat skills were below average, and her only defense was an umbrella. And he also noticed that even when in danger, she doesn't get off the coffin, and so there's a possibility that this is her weakness. Jiang Zi was happy that they had managed to find the guard's weakness, as suddenly she noticed something unusual. Jiang Ting was poisoned. She couldn't understand how, since she had killed all of Tianlong's people. Jiang Ting said that he would block the next attack while Jiang Zi had to destroy the coffin and that they would only have one shot at it. But Jiang Zi didn't listen to what he was saying. She realized that Jiang Tianlong had foreseen that she would kill his minions, which meant that the poison was in their bodies, which meant that she had poisoned Jiang Ting. She realized that if she hadn't been so reckless, Jiang Ting would have noticed them, but Tianlong used her fear of poison to kill Jiang Ting. Catching the opportune moment, Jiang Ting shouted to Jiang Zi to follow the plan. Jiang Hu announced that a contestant came out of the second doors, and it was Jiang Tianhu. He said that Tianlong and Tianhu were really brothers since they had passed the competition together. Tianhu asked what happened to those behind the doors of death, and Tianlong asked him not to worry about it, because they wouldn't be able to recognize this poison. And once the markings appeared, it would mean that they were no longer dead. Tianhu asked if Jiang Zi would notice the poison, as she was well aware of it, to which Tianlong replied that they could not get out, and if Jiang Zi was poisoned, Jiang Ting would come to him on her knees to beg for the antidote. Besides, she had seen her father die from that poison, and there was no way she could stay cold-blooded. And if she survived, she would go insane watching her lover's torment. Jiang Zi couldn't move, thinking about Jiang Ting suffering the same fate as her father, but she told herself she couldn't let that happen. But even so, she thought that it was her fault, and that she shouldn't have come. Jiang Ting, holding back the enemies, asked why she was standing. He then realized she was wounded and yelled for her to dodge the enemy. Jiang Zi asked herself if she had killed her brother. She realized that even without her, Jiang Tianlong would have found a way to finish him off. Clenching her teeth, she swore that she would cripple Jiang Tianlong as soon as she got out of here. And in the next instant, she froze the puppets trying to kill her, after which her ice began to freeze Jiang Ting. Immediately after, transforming into a multitude of spikes, he headed towards the guard. But she blocked the attack with ice, thinking about the immense power her enemy was hiding. And lowering the umbrella, the guard was shocked by what she saw. Her enemy had once again created an ice lotus. But this time, it was much stronger than the previous one. Jiang Ting asked what she was doing, but Jiang Zi asked him not to worry, saying that he had been poisoned and that she should take care of it now. Jiang Ting said that he couldn't feel anything, whereupon Jiang Zi asked him to leave it to her. After all, she was already familiar with this poison and knew how to cure it. She thought about the fact that she was probably the only one who could heal him, and no matter what happened to her, she only wanted him alive. Jiang Ting asked what she was doing, since it wasn't much like healing, to which Jiang Zi replied that the poison was spreading too fast, and therefore she needed to freeze his heart. She asked him to calm down, promising that she could do everything. Jiang Ting said that he believed her. He told her that he knew how she was affected by her father's poisoning, but it was her responsibility to stay calm. Jiang Zi felt as if he was reading her mind, and realized that she couldn't let Jiang Ting know that it was the poison that had killed her father. She had to hurry as the puppets could destroy the dome. Jiang Zi asked permission to take off Jiang Ting's clothes to heal him, but unbuttoning her clothes, she was amazed at what she saw. Jiang Ting said that there was nothing wrong with it. It was necessary in order to regain his place. She was shocked that Jiang Ting had suffered so much in the years since they last met. She realized that Jiang's family was completely rotten and that it was exactly their fault. Jiang Zi used her power, reflecting on the fact that they are only shadows of their former selves, and only those who fight for power and glory are left. There is nothing else left. But if Jiang Ting stands at the head of the Jiang family, she believes that they can regain their former greatness, and she is willing to do everything in her power to save him. Jiang Ting said that he didn't recall the technique and assumed that she had learned it elsewhere. Jiang Zi was pleased that Jiang Ting had no clue that she was using a non-healing technique. She was transferring poison into her body, and she was willing to put everything on the line for her family. The Guardian resented the fact that her enemies thought they could escape under the dome, which meant she was underestimated. Immediately after, she used absolute catastrophe, forcing all the puppets to attack the dome at the same time. The heat from this attack was enough to start melting the lotus, and Jiang Ting noticed this. He said that Jiang Zi wouldn't be able to withstand this attack, and so he asked that she let him go. But she asked him to shut up, saying she was almost done with her treatment. But in the very next moment, the ice lotus was pierced by the enemy's attack. Hearing this, Jiang Ting decided to delay healing and immediately used a blood pulse. And at the same moment, Jiang Zi informed him that the healing was complete and the poison was completely drained from his body. Immediately after, the swordsman fell on her and began gnawing on the arm she had blocked the attack with, after which he raised his hand intending to take Jiang Zi's life. But lowering his hand, he suddenly froze right in front of her face. In the blink of an eye, Jiang Ting chopped down the swordsman, saving Jiang Zi's life. He asked if she was okay, but she demanded that he not touch her. She just needed some time to rest. She didn't want him to see her face, because the amount of poison was making the marks on her face too visible. Jiang Zi started to use her blood pulse, trying to slow down the effects of the poison. She didn't want Zhang Tianlong's plan to come true and just had to live to see the end of the competition. After putting on her clothes, Jiang Ting told her to rest, saying that he would handle the rest alone. The demon told Jiang Ting that he was just a burden to his loved ones, to which Jiang Ting replied that he no longer wanted to be a burden to others. And after being struck by lightning, he said he'd do anything to get as strong as he could, and that it would be his defense now, not hers. Someone told the guard that if Jiang Ting survived, they would have to let him go, which made her giggle because this stubborn man had that side of him, but she still agreed to let him go. And in the next instant, the ice lotus split apart, and out came Jiang Ting, dragging one of the puppets behind him. He then threw her into the coffin on which the shocked guard was sitting. After recovering from her shock, she chuckled and praised Jiang Ting for his technique and said that he could leave now. Just as suddenly, Jiang Ting attacked her and pierced through the umbrella she tried to defend against the attack with. But unexpectedly, Jiang Ting's punch was stopped by a hand that appeared out of thin air. After which the voice said, "The gate of Shen guards life, the gate of death guards death." The ghost said that he was the creator of this formation and also the ancestor of the Zhang family, and therefore he demanded that Jiang Ting bow before him. But Jiang Ting wasn't going to listen to him and said that this was another reason to take her out. The ancestor called Jiang Ting an ungrateful rat and asked if he knew what he was doing. He said that Jiang Ting had cleared this level and could now leave. Otherwise, he could expect no mercy. Jiang Ting asked if he thought it was too late to let him go, then added that he would destroy his grave and get out of here himself. The ghost admitted that he suspected that he was no ordinary warrior, for he had revealed his formation in a matter of seconds, and so he was certain that he was the current head of the family. He said that the gate of death was created by him, and it is also his tomb, and therefore he asked that Jiang Ting not destroy his resting place. He asked to spare the doll, which was prototypically his wife, and in return he offered a scroll of the cloud sword. Jiang Ting decided that although he didn't know what it was, he felt that it should come in handy in the future. Jiang Ting asked if he had anything else, causing the ghost to fearfully start waving his arms, warning that even if he was killed, he would have nothing left to give. Jiang Zi walked over to Jiang Ting and said that it was time for them to leave, since they had already done well. Jiang Ting asked if her body was okay and asked her to tell him if anything was wrong, to which she replied that she was fine and that she was just tired. The ghost agreed with Jiang Zi's words and advised him to obey his elder cousin. Holding on with all her might, Jiang Zi's only thought was that she had to hold out. A creak was heard from death's door, transferring all attention to himself. Zhang Yang and Zhang Bao were happy that they were unlocking, while the others were surprised by it. Walking out of the gate of death, Jiang Ting apologized to everyone for having to wait for them. Then he gave Jiang Zi to his brother Zhang Yang to take care of her. Zhang Yang asked if she was injured, to which Jiang Zi replied that she was fine and that she was just tired. Tianhu remarked that Jiang Ting was walking quite normally and that he didn't look like he was poisoned, to which the latter replied that Jiang Ting couldn't heal on his own, which meant that one of them was definitely poisoned. Tianhu asked Tianlong how Jiang Ting was able to survive, since the death gate was the most dangerous of all, and Qianlong added that on top of that, Jiang Ting was able to survive all the traps he had set, and it could no longer be trivial luck. Tianhu chuckled and told Zhang Ting that he was too stubborn to pass the gate of death, in response to which Zhang Ting asked him to shut up. He said that Tianhu had no right to talk to him. Hearing this, Tianhu wanted to punch him but was stopped by Tianlong. He said that if one wanted to fight, they would have to wait for the final round. Jiang Ting admitted that he didn't want to waste unnecessary words on Tianlong, and so he asked for an evaluation of his life. He wanted to know the reason why he shouldn't kill him. Tianlong couldn't understand what the man was carrying, for he was poisoned. Jiang Ting said that otherwise, Jiang Tianlong should prepare his neck for him to chop it off. Jiang Hu announced that Shun Mo's level had been passed, hence they were moving on to the finals. There would be a total of 8 finalists, and there will be no rules in it, which means there are no restrictions on attacks, mechanisms, and blood technique weapons, allowing participants to unleash their full potential. The losers will be those who are unable to move or fall to the arena, and if someone nails an opponent, the participant will not be penalized. Jiang Yang recognized that Jiang Ting was not as weak as they thought, and asked Jiang Zi if she had seen his strength. Hearing no response, he asked if she was okay, to which she replied that he was quite annoying and said she was just tired. Jiang Ting thought that the rules gave Tianlong an advantage that he would definitely take advantage of, so he couldn't let Jiang Zi and Jiang Yang go up against him. In any case, the draw was over, and if they had to fight, he had to prevent it at all costs. A moment later, Jiang Hu announced that the first battle would be Jiang SKUA versus Jiang Zi. Hearing this, Jiang Zi panicked, realizing that she might lose this fight. Jiang Yang suggested that she surrender, as she wouldn't be able to defeat Jiang SKUA, and Jiang Ting supported him, saying that she was able to pass the Shang Gate, which proved her strength. But Jiang Zi asked them to step aside, asking if they had any faith in her. She realized that she couldn't hide anymore. Even though she had stopped the poison, the marks could still be seen, and so she felt that Jiang Ting couldn't be allowed to worry about her. Her plan was to let Jiang SKUA win. She had to understand her since they had a good relationship. Jiang Feng said that they would obviously be in trouble if Jiang Zi could defeat Jiang SKUA, but Tianhu said that he knew everything about them. Jiang SKUA didn't have parents, and therefore she was always cruel. Also, she had personal reasons. He was completely sure that she would kill Jiang Zi. Jiang Zi said hello to Jiang SKUA, saying that it had been a long time since they had seen each other, and that she had grown a lot since their last meeting. But Jiang SKUA chose not to answer, wrinkling her face. She was looking at Jiang Zi's chest, listening to the fact that she wasn't feeling well, because of which her brothers were very worried about her. Therefore, Jiang Zi asked for Jiang SKUA to defeat her quickly. After finishing her inspection, Jiang SKUA looked down and felt anger fill her. After that, she drew her sword and swinging it, she asked if she had come to show off, because she had everything and she still dared to bargain. Jiang Zi managed to create a shield to protect herself from the attack. She was surprised that Jiang SKUA was able to create such a strong weapon in such a short period of time, which was bad. After all, if she used the blood pulse, the poison would spread throughout her body. Jiang SKUA used Shrou's blood pulse and said that Jiang Zi was too weak. She wondered how dare she look down on her. Immediately afterwards, she landed a kick to the face, knocking out Jiang Zi. Seeing this, Jiang Ting and Jiang Yang immediately ran over to help her. But she asked them not to interfere. Her ice crown had been destroyed, which meant that the poison had begun to spread again. She jumped up and tore towards Jiang SKUA, demanding that they not stop her. She didn't want them to see her like this. And at the same moment, Jiang Ting realized that Jiang Zi was poisoned, and Jiang Yang noticed that it was Zheng poison. Jiang Zi was saddened that this happened, but she didn't want to die so easily. After all, her goal was to kill Tianlong. But as she was losing consciousness, she realized that she couldn't stay with Jiang Ting anymore. Jiang Ting immediately used his blood pulse and told Jiang Yang that he would seal her heart, then extract the poison. But Jiang Yang said that Jiang Ting couldn't do anything, because the appearance of the marks meant the result was irreversible. His father was already almost a corpse when it happened. Jiang Ting shouted that they couldn't find out without even trying it. They couldn't just stand by, they couldn't let her die. Jiang SKUA was amazed at what was happening and began to think that it was all her fault. Tianlong behind her suggested that since she hated her so much, she probably poisoned Jiang Zi. Jiang SKUA asked Jiang Ting and Jiang Yang not to believe Tianlong's words. She said that she didn't poison her. The people in the stands started insulting Jiang SKUA, shouting about her meanness and that she couldn't win with 2 punches without using poison. Li Yang asked Qianduo to bring him a flowering wine to the entrance of the arena where he would wait for him. Qianduo asked if the old man had lost his mind. After all, they hadn't even opened it, and now he wanted to give it to a stranger. To which Li Yan replied that he would break his finger for every second he waited. Li Yan wondered if he was being too nice to him, and if it was even worth thinking about when someone's life was in danger. The people from the stands demanded that Jiang SKUA be disqualified, and that she get out of the arena now, but she tried to prove that it wasn't her doing. Tianhu praised Qianlong for such a trick to keep them safe. Qianlong then said that Jiang Ting now knew that Jiang Zi had been poisoned, which meant that he would surely lose all motivation to watch his sister die. And if he wants to continue, it's unlikely that he'll be able to stay as cold-blooded as he is. Jiang Yang asked Jiang Ting to stop. After all, no one is more knowledgeable about the poison than he and his sister. And even if an antidote exists, they must stop her body from rotting. And brute force won't help with that in any way. Remembering the time they spent together, Jiang Ting cried. He said that she had done too much for him. Tianlong chuckled at their young master's situation. First his parents died, and now his sister as well. He said that she was destined to die from the same poison as his father. Jiang Ting recognized that Jiang Yang was right. He asked to take Jiang Zi to the doctor while he finished with his business in the arena. Jiang Yang rebuked the one for what he said. After all, Jiang Zi was dying, and he still wanted to fight. But Jiang Ting revealed that he knew what she wanted. He was able to discern it in her. Jiang Ting promised that he wouldn't let her efforts go to waste, so he would win the competition. Jiang Ting shouted that he was ready to fight everyone at once. Jiang Yang asked if all of this was more important than Jiang Zi, because if she died, there would obviously be no point in this victory. But Jiang Ting told him to stop, for their quarrels would clearly not make her happy, and Jiang Yang said that they were clearly wrong to turn to him for help. Jiang Bao approached them and bowed to Jiang Ting and said that he would not participate in the duel and that he could help them with Jiang Zi's treatment. He told them that there was a good doctor nearby and asked them to follow him. Jiang Ting thanked Jiang Bao, then confessed to Jiang Yang that he didn't care about winning, but the poisoner was still here. And if she couldn't, he would personally make sure that the lowlife who did this left the world following her. Jiang Ting asked that Jiang Yang only give him 2 hours. Immediately after that, Jiang Yang and Jiang Bao ran out of the arena. Jiang Yang thought that Jiang Ting's behavior was ridiculous and that he would be unfortunate if she died. Jiang Bao said that the doctor might not be at the shop and that he hoped to catch him there, as he suddenly spotted him at the entrance to the arena. Chan Duo ordered them to slowly lower the girl down, or else the poison would continue to spread, and in that case, Grandpa would no longer be able to help her. Jiang Yang knelt down and begged for the doctor to help her, and Chan Duo told Grandpa that these were the people he needed, and if he deemed them worthy of that wine, then he could proceed. Li Yang asked Jiang Yang if he understood the working principle of poison. It could cure her wounds, but whether she would wake up or not. Jiang Yang said he understood everything and thanked the doctor. Li Yan reflected on the fact that Jiang Ting didn't come, which meant that he didn't give in to his emotions, which was pretty good. He realized that he had made the right choice in deciding to help him. Meanwhile, in the arena, Zhang Shui sobbingly explained to Jiang Ting that she didn't poison Jiang Zi and couldn't even think of such a thing happening, but she promised that she wouldn't stop him if he wanted to kill her. Unexpectedly, Jiang Ting stroked her and said that it was fine, for even Jiang Zhao wouldn't blame her for this. But he also asked her not to go too far or he wouldn't be able to help her. Tianlong was angry at Jiang Hongting since he was able to solve everything with words as if he was a young master. He said that he wanted to give him a peaceful death, but he wasn't really trying to die, so he asked him not to blame him for what was happening. Jiang Ting demanded that he shut up and attacked him, and since he was in a hurry, he would like to fight everyone at once. Tianlong told Jiang Ting not to make a fool of himself and ordered everyone to kill Jiang Ting immediately, after which Jiang Feng used his boar blood pulse. Tianhu admitted that although Jiang Feng wasn't very smart, but his haste could cause problems even for him. And Jiang Tianlong said that Jiang Ting used blood pulse to enhance his body stamina, and therefore he had no chance of winning, but he still wanted to know his level of stamina. Jiang Hu commented on how Jiang Feng was taking the initiative by attacking first, while Jiang Qinghai hoped that Jiang Tianlong would definitely be able to defeat Jiang Ting. Jiang Feng created a bloody rake and attacked Jiang Ting, but the latter told him that he didn't have time to mess with it because he still had to save her. And in the next instant, everyone fell silent. They couldn't believe that Jiang Ting had defeated his opponent with a single strike. Jiang Ting swung his hand, sending his opponent flying. Tianhu asked Tianlong how Jiang Ting could defeat Jiang Feng, who was at the Liang Qi stage. And so quickly, to which Qianlong replied that they had put too much faith in this trash, and he ended up flying out with only one hit. Jiang Ting beckoned Qianlong over to him. He was offering to let him feel his strength on his skin. Jiang Tianlong warned his brother that Jiang Ting had many aces up his sleeve, and therefore he needed to be careful. He asked Jiang Tianhu to buy more time while he prepared his technique. Jiang Hongting asked Tianhu why he needed the perfection crystal now. After all, it was used to restore and strengthen the blood pulse. Tianhu agreed with what he said, but he also added that by eating it now, he would be able to increase his blood pulse for a while. And even considering that he might be paralyzed for the rest of his life, he felt that it was worth it. After all, he would be able to kill Jiang Ting himself. After eating the crystal, Tianhu started laughing madly. He felt his body overflowing with power. Immediately after which, he used the enhanced blood pulse of the bear. He believed that victory was already in his hands. Just as suddenly, the arena began to shake, preventing Jiang Ting from keeping his balance. Some of the onlookers were even able to notice that the ground shook. And because of this, they were able to realize that it was because of something like this that the rich people had bought up all the perfecting crystals. And in the next instant, Jiang Tianhu attacked Jiang Ting with a steel claw of strength that was enough to break the platform on the other side. And that single strike was enough to swat Jiang Ting. Qianlong praised Tianhu for the quick victory, but regretted that Jiang Ting was dead since they wouldn't be able to have fun. As suddenly a huge pillar of fiery energy soared into the sky, destroying the bear's paw. Tianhu couldn't believe it, as Jiang Ting's blood pulse was on a completely different level. Jiang Ting asked if he was done, for now it was his turn to attack. Immediately after which, he shot a multitude of fire spheres at Jiang Tianhu, but the latter easily blocked them and said that although Jiang Ting was strong, it wasn't enough. After which, Jiang Ting picked up the stone and filled it with energy. Immediately after which, he threw it at Jiang Tianhu's head, striking the latter with electric energy. Qianlong asked his brother if he was okay, to which he replied that Jiang Ting had done something to him that made him feel strange. He couldn't understand what was happening to his eye. Jiang Ting asked if Tianhu was willing to surrender. After all, he wasn't going to spare him further. Jiang Tianhu panicked. He realized that he couldn't see anything with his injured eye. Jiang Tianlong apologized to him for dragging him here, and admitted that he hadn't expected Jiang Ting to turn out to be so violent. And since he had crossed the line, he might no longer be able to hold back and kill him. Jiang Tianlong hoped that Jiang Tianhu could still buy him time at the cost of his life. Jiang Ting thought it was strange that Jiang Tianhu was attacking him alone. After all, together they would have an advantage, which could mean that Qianlong was up to something. Jiang Tianhu promised Jiang Ting that he would kill him and used his blood pulse once again. Jiang Tianlong was amazed that he had become so strong by eating just one blood crystal. And if he finished his technique, he could become invulnerable. Suddenly, Jiang Tianhu used Mahakala Advent, causing a huge Mahakala to burst out of the bear. Seeing this, Jiang Ting was shocked that Tianhu had used the blood pulse to evolve. Jiang Hu said that it was unimaginable, because Jiang Tianhu did not give up with such wounds, and even on the contrary became stronger. But the audience thought it was too much and that Tianhu was clearly no longer human. Jiang Tianhu shouted that if he were to die, he would take Jiang Ting with him, immediately after which he used the first Mahakala technique. He used the earth grab from creating huge hands right under Jiang Ting. But he managed to react immediately and then jumped into the air, dodging his hands. Jiang Tianhu asked if Jiang Ting thought that by dodging, he had gotten a chance to win. Immediately after, he used the second Mahakala technique, Stonefall, creating a multitude of stone hands in the sky, ready to land on Jiang Ting. Watching this situation, Jiang Tianlong was disappointed that he couldn't make a sneak attack while the enemy was in the air. Besides, his brother could do such a thing even when he had almost no energy left. He thought that he was really an idiot. Jiang Ting produced a lightning sword and demanded that Jiang Tianhu finish with these stupid names. Though in his own turn, he decided to call this strike Killer Mahakala. Jiang Tianhu said that his Mahakala was a unique technique and that there was no way Jiang Ting could beat him. Jiang Tianlong was happy that Jiang Ting had the second element, because he would be able to take him out as well. Watching the fight, Jiang Shui prayed for Jiang Ting to win as she suddenly caught herself worrying about him. And in the next instant, Jiang Ting pierced through Jiang Tianhu's Mahakala. Jiang Ting realized that with Tianhu now definitely allowed, and that he could let that one live if Zhang Tianlong gave him an antidote, as he suddenly noticed something, he realized that all this time Zhang Tianlong had been creating a formation. Jiang Tianhu told his brother to give him all the crystals to deal with Jiang Ting, but Tianlong said he was in the way. Realizing the enemy's plan, Jiang Ting immediately swooped down, preparing to take the lives of both brothers. Tianhu demanded that Tianlong give him the crystals now, to which the latter replied that he had spent everything on the formation. As Jiang Tianhu suddenly noticed that his other eye had stopped seeing, Zhang Tianlong recognized that he had forgotten to tell him that using blood crystals had a downside. At this moment, Jiang Tianhu realized that Tianlong had betrayed him and that he was an idiot for trusting him. And in the next instant, Jiang Ting landed right on top of the brothers, creating a fiery explosion. Jiang Hu admitted that this was the first time he was seeing such an epic fight. So even Jiang Tianhu kept fighting with such wounds. This was a true fight to the death. He wondered what the young gentleman was still hiding from them. After surviving the attack, Zhang Tianlong realized how much he had underestimated Jiang Ting. He was already finishing the formation, but now it was destroyed. The very next moment, he saw Jiang Ting running towards him armed with an electric sword. Immediately after which he struck out, Zhang Tianlong found himself behind his back. Jiang Ting said that he could let Tianlong live if only he gave up the antidote. But the latter immediately refused and replied that he had to find out how Jiang Ting was able to obtain this thunder technique, and even with an incomplete formation, he had enough strength to win. Immediately afterward, Zhang Tianlong turned to the water and offered Jiang Ting to play. Zhang Tianlong asked Jiang Ting why he thought he was the one who poisoned Jiang Zi. He said he was clean and innocent. But that didn't mean he'd take pity so easily. He'd promised to give his weak body a good thrashing and make the torture as painful as possible. After which, Tianlong welcomed Jiang Ting into his Xinhua world. Jiang Ting wondered if these petals were his technique. But the one asked Jiang Ting what was wrong with him. After all, it was too early to be surprised. Immediately after, he jumped out of the water behind from Jiang Ting. Jiang Ting tried to dodge such a bad attack, but for unknown reasons, he was hit by Zhang Tianlong. Immediately afterward, he returned to the water and swam out in front of Jiang Ting once again, asking him to face him once more. He then jumped out of the water and kicked Jiang Ting and said that he should die like a dog. Jiang Ting was surprised that Zhang Tianlong had reappeared beside him so quickly and assumed that they were clones. But he immediately refuted it by realizing that something was obviously wrong here, because all of his punches were connected, which meant that this world was improving his strength and speed. But even if it was only speed, he would be able to dodge the blow. Zhang Tianlong said that it was useless to evaluate this technique. After all, he was the king of this world, and no matter how strong Jiang Ting was, there was no way he would be able to blend in. Jiang Ting concluded that Tianlong only appeared from the water, and even though there was only water around, he appeared within 3 meters. But even so, he couldn't understand what the petals were for and how they were related to his blood pulse. Zhang Tianlong said that this place was boring and asked Jiang Ting to at least shout, but he shot a fireball at him, demanding him to shut up. Immediately after that, Zhang Tianlong appeared at his back with a sword and saying that he could feel every breath he took struck with the sword. And back in the water, he thanked Jiang Ting for the blood spilled in the water, because things were really melting more interesting now. After thinking for a while, Jiang Ting realized that the petals could sense his every move and, in addition, they were able to create illusions that made him unable to dodge the blows. He realized that all this time, Zhang Tianlong had been hiding his blood pulse behind those petals, which means that all of this is just a distraction. Zhang Tianlong laughed at how smart Jiang Ting was and asked what he could do about it. Then he lit his wounds and said that Tianlong would still see everything, because now he understood how to defeat him. Seeing Jiang Ting igniting his wound, Zhang Tianlong decided that he was desperate and asked him to take his time since this tournament was rigged from the beginning. Zhang Tianlong used his catfish blood pulse, water mode, and attacked Jiang Ting. Feeling the blood pulse approaching, Jiang Ting asked just how cowardly one had to be to attack from the back. Immediately after, he spun the flames with a typhoon defense against the enemy's blood pulse. With those tongues of flame, he could also sense the entire arena and could already anticipate where the next attack would come from, and began to boil water in that place until he gave up, because if he wanted to win, now was the time to attack. Zhang Tianlong surfaced from under the water and said that Jiang Ting was clearly underestimating him. But the latter was waiting for this and immediately attacked Zhang Tianlong by covering his hand with flames. Just as suddenly, Zhang Tianlong jumped out of the water, striking Jiang Ting. Tianlong said that although it was close, but even so he wasn't scared, because not only does he anticipate his actions, but he can simply see right through him. He decided to reminisce about how he said he controlled everything here, and therefore he wanted Jiang Ting to start begging him for mercy. The spectators were shocked by such a battle and could not utter a word. He asked what they were all waiting for and said they could applaud him. Suddenly, a loud laughter was heard nearby. Zhang Xingyan admitted that she had always believed that she had always made the right choice. Jiang Tianlong asked Jiang Ting if this sounded familiar. He will take away everything he has, whether it is a fiancé or a young master's title. While Jiang Ting was trying to figure out why the Zhang family was here, Zhang Xingyan kept laughing and asked Jiang Tianlong to beat Jiang Ting to death, after which she would marry him. Jiang Qinghe greeted the Zhang family members who had come to see them. He asked Chief Zhang if this young man was his son. He assumed that the young man had been able to greatly improve his skills through years of training. Then Chief Zhang introduced his son, Zhang Tianlong, and also asked him to greet his uncle. Zhang Tianlong said hello to Qinghe, and the latter was happy about the coincidence because his child is his namesake, so he thought it was fate. Head Zhang chuckled and said that his son had been chosen by the Panlong Palace itself as a bodyguard. In his mind, he laughed that Qinghe's son would never be able to match his son. Jiang Yu was shocked that the Panlong Palace had decided to show up here, while Jiang Shou was excited at the chance to get to see them. Hearing this, Jiang Qinghe had no choice but to kneel before him. He thought to himself that he couldn't afford to anger such a powerful family. After all, the fee was too high. The onlookers were surprised to see Jiang Qinghe kneeling in front of someone, and some began to scoff that the Zhang family had fallen after all. Zhang Tianlong lifted Jiang Qinghe from his lap and asked to communicate without formality since they are family. From which head Zhang laughed and asked what they were doing. Since the wedding ceremony was already underway, he asked if it was too pathetic of them. Jiang Shou motioned for the head of Zhang to sit down, and Jiang Yu realized that the Zhang family had truly fallen. And only inheriting Kai Feng's will could save their family. Jiang Ting was their last hope. Meanwhile, in the arena, Zhang Tianlong suggested that Jiang Ting surrender as he didn't want to waste any extra strength. Jiang Ting realized that he was really a fool for thinking he could get away. After all, Zhang Tianlong wanted to exhaust him, and so he must finish as soon as possible and help Jiang Zi. Jiang Tianlong told Jiang Ting that he would drain his life little by little, as after everything that had happened, he couldn't let him die too easily. And if he decided to reveal what was behind his thunder technique, he promised to reveal the antidote in return. When Jiang Ting heard about the antidote, he realized that he could save her and rushed to Jiang Tianlong demanding the antidote. Jiang Tianlong said that it was all boring because idiots like Jiang Ting were only driven by such superficialities. Splitting like a mirror, Tianlong told Jiang Ting that there was no way he could win. Jiang Ting couldn't understand what had just happened. Everything around him started to collapse, after which he found himself in a kind of space and the hole behind his back was about to close. Jiang Ting looked around and saw a huge Shui Yu monster in front of him, which is a blood pulse catfish-shaped monster. He greeted Jiang Ting with his arrival in the wasteland. Jiang Ting was astonished to see Zhang Tianlong's real blood pulse. After all, he had only used tentacles before, and only now had he drawn his trump card. Just as suddenly, Jiang Ting noticed the blood crystals and realized that the catfish's blood pulse had become so strong because of them. The behemoth demanded Jiang Ting to show him his true self, and looking at the monster's eye, Jiang Ting felt that he could no longer move. He felt as if there was someone inside him. After which, Jiang Ting sensed something else. His consciousness began to fade away, and Zhang Hu announced that the young master had simply disappeared, making Zhang Tianlong simply ruthless. Zhang Tianlong told Zhang Hongtanting that thanks to a drop of his blood, he was able to finish his technique and now had full control over him. But before killing him, Zhang Tianlong wanted to know something, namely where Jiang Ting got his thunder technique from. Head Zhang praised Qinghai that his son had really prepared for the battle, so the probability of Jiang Ting surviving was close to zero. Qinghai thanked the head for his praise. He was glad that he felt that way. A satisfied Zhang Xingyun suggested that her brother look at her husband and asked what he thought of his strength, to which her brother replied that he was quite strong. Zhang Tianlong had assumed that Zhang Tianlong was using the Panlong Palace nightmare technique, and his ability to control it on a similar level could make him quite useful. Zhang Tianlong asked if these were all Zhang Ting's memories, but the latter repeated with blank eyes. 2 hours. Save Zhang Zi. Tianlong decided to find the reason why Zhang Ting had become so strong and began to look through his memories. He was surprised at what he saw, for there was much more here than he had expected. He saw the ancestor spirit, the 9th dragon transformation and the death thunder, from which he thought that Zhang Ting was really lucky, but unfortunately, all of these things happened to him. Tianlong suggested that the ancestor spirit move to his new master. After all, he could control Zhang Ting's thoughts, and therefore there was no point for him to stay in Zhang Ting. He said that they are both from the Jiang family, but of completely different colors, for he is a genius who is destined to become a young master. Tianlong knew for sure that the spirit was inside and that he was observing everything here immediately, after which he saw a golden glow and laughed at the fact that the ancestor had come out. Zhang Tianlong offered the ancestor a deal. If the ancestor moved to him, Zhang Ting would stay alive. Zhang Tianlong greeted the 500-year-old Emperor Long Shui and then introduced himself as his new heir, Zhang Tianlong. He said that he was different from this empty-headed moron and that he was the genius of the Jiang family, and that together with him, they would be able to take over and then rule the world. The ancestor asked not to make him laugh, for he could tell from his disgusting technique and blood pulse that Tianlong had learned in the Panlun Palace. And since a member of the Jiang family dared to consort with their mortal enemies, condemning the family to destruction, he is ready to kill him right here if Tianlong doesn't surrender. Zhang Tianlong laughed off this bluff and revealed that he knew it would happen like this, even before the summoning. He said that in this world, he was the only one who could harm anyone, and some spirit here was completely powerless. And even if he could kill him, he wouldn't wait that long. The ancestor realized that although Tianlong was an idiot, he was still able to analyze the situation. Tianlong said that he must have seen a lot in 500 years. Besides, they are both from the same family, and he is better than Zhang Ting anyway. So he wants to know why all the respect goes to him and why Zhang Ting is the young master. Tianlong asked if his source of power was so important and said that he could use the power of the Panlong Palace against them. After which he laughed madly and said that he would be able to lead the Zhang family to make it the greatest in the world. From what he heard, the ancestor chuckled and asked if he was jealous of Zhang Ting since he had said so much about him. Zhang Tianlong asked why he should be envious of such a pile of trash and asked him not to make him laugh with such words. And the ancestor asked if it was really so because he hated Zhang Ting for his stubbornness and becoming a young master. Tianlong asked what he was talking about and again asked him to stop joking. And the ancestor said that Tianlong understood this better than anyone else, for Zhang Ting's blood pulse had long been dead. But even so, he had not given up, and he was willing to grasp any opportunity to rekindle it for once. Zhang Tianlong asked, and so what? Because in the end, it meant nothing. Just killing him was too lenient for the likes of him, and so he would destroy his consciousness and start controlling him like a puppet. Tianlong believes that Zhang Ting doesn't deserve all these memories, and that he'll wallow in the resentment and violence accumulated over the years. He was going to destroy his dreams, step on them and stomp on them until they were gone. After which, Zhang Tianlong snapped his fingers, and Zhang Ting's memory bubbles began to burst. All of his happy memories began to fade from Zhang Ting's mind, including the one where he was about to tell his mom about being abused. Zhang Ting cried and started begging Zhang Zi and Zhang Yang not to leave, promising that he wouldn't tell her. Then he grabbed his head and started screaming. The ancestor reminded Zhang Ting that he had always forbidden him to interfere and asked if he could handle all this alone. Zhang Tianlong was offended that the ancestor cared so much for Zhang Ting, and so he advised him to worry about himself, for he was going to destroy them both. After all, if he can't have it, neither can anyone else. Zhang Tianlong started laughing from the fact that he had won. He felt simply divine afterwards, because after all, he was the winner. After which he looked at the bubble with Zhang Zi and laughed, for it was quite ironic that he wouldn't remember her again. And just as the bubble was beginning to dissolve, a hand reached out to it. The demon laughed off the brat and said he should have stopped while he had the chance, but he dared to touch his memories. Jiang Tianlong was shocked that Jiang Ting was able to free himself, after which he realized that it was all about his demon. Jiang Ting had made the demon destroy his world. The ancestor realized that it wasn't actually a demon. All the feelings that Jiang Ting had hidden for years had transformed into his other personality. Jiang Ting said that he didn't give him anything useful, and the demon said that he was too soft on him and asked for permission to show him how to do things. To deal with an evil person, one must become even more evil. Seeing what happened to Jiang Ting, Tianlong thought it was black lightning. Jiang Tianlong used the 1,000 reflections technique to create multiple doppelgangers and said that it didn't matter what technique he was going to use, because this was his world and he could do whatever he wanted in it, so he couldn't win. But Jiang Ting attacked with his sword and said that he couldn't win this and that he was already sick of these tricks. And from this strike, all of Jiang Tianlong's clones were annihilated overnight. But Tianlong said that he wasn't done yet, from which Jiang Ting turned around, and he saw that he was being attacked by a monstrous catfish blood pulse. Jiang Tianlong said that he didn't have to fight him. After all it will take is a blood pulse to seal it. But Jiang Ting was able to dodge the tentacles and attack Jiang Tianlong. Then he merged with the water, telling him that it was too late and that he would stay here forever. After Jiang Tianlong disappeared, only Jiang Ting and the catfish blood pulse remained in the wasteland. A moment later, Jiang Tianlong came out of the water. He almost panicked at the fact that he might lose. And since Jiang Ting is locked inside, now he thinks he can take his place. Head Zhang said that he was now convinced that he was now giving his daughter into worthy hands, while Jiang Qinghao rejoiced that Jiang Tianlong had saved them, and now this bench would be theirs forever. And Zhang Xinyan started yelling about how much she loved him, calling him sweetie. Jiang Shou asked Jiang Hu why he froze and demanded that he announce the results, whereupon the latter began to announce that the winner of the tournament was. Suddenly a rustle was heard behind Jiang Tianlong and a shadow appeared in the water. And a moment later, a pulse of blood of a fiery serpent, dragon form, emerged from the water. Jiang Ting appeared from the water and thanked Jiang Tianlong for the treat of crystals on his cute fish. And as Jiang Tianlong turned around in surprise, Jiang Ting said that it was now his turn. The tomb of the Jiang family. The bullies mocked the young man for daring to call himself a genius with his blood pulse. After which one of them said that if he saw him tomorrow at the tournament, he would beat him so badly that he wouldn't be able to forget it, and they wouldn't think of sparing him even if he was a genius. Jiang Tianlong said that they were cowards afraid to fight one-on-one since they attacked him all at once, which made the bully laugh and offered to beat him up again. Suddenly a man appeared in the distance and demanded them to stop. Realizing it was Jiang Chenghe, they started to run away. As they ran away, they reminded him that if they saw him tomorrow, he wouldn't leave in one piece. Jiang Ting asked his son why he let himself be treated like this, to which he replied that there were too many of them. He apologized for being unable to beat anyone, even after so much practice, and said he didn't want to go to the tournament anymore. Jiang Ting said that in that case, they would all die tonight. He told Tianlong to look at himself and remember that anyone who went against them must die. The strong defeat the weak, and even if they have to use forbidden methods, they will make everyone look at them. Jiang Tianlong laughed from how good he felt at this moment and that he could just kill them all. They mocked him, and now they have victimized him for tomorrow's victory. Jiang Hu announced the new champion, Jiang Tianlong, with a victory in the competition. Jiang Tianlong was confident that no one would be able to outshine his nobodies. Just as suddenly, Jiang Ting ran up to them, shouting about how cool Tianlong was. Hearing Brother Qin, Tianlong turned around and saw everyone going to the young master and calling him cute. Someone present said that they heard that he was going to marry a girl from the Zhang family in the future, but Jiang Ting demanded that they stop squeezing him so he could give the flowers to Jiang Tianlong. Jiang Hu said that it was not surprising that the young master was so popular. After all, his father was Jiang Kaifeng himself. Seeing all of this, Tianlong wished that Jiang Ting would not approach him. After all, that honor gained by blood and sweat had disappeared so easily. And no matter what he did, there was no way he could top it. He just wanted to understand why Jiang Ting had everything while he had nothing. Qianlong decided that even if he lost, he was obligated to take Jiang Ting with him. And using the poison Hydra Strike, he shouted that even with his enhancement, he was unable to do anything with his poison. Jiang Ting was angry that Jiang Tianlong dared to use that poison again, and his dragon roared, nullifying the attack completely. Everyone was shocked by this kind of domination. Jiang Ting's blood pulse was just something. Jiang Tianlong said that it was impossible since Jiang Ting's strength had always been average. And He Zhang added that he couldn't feel that surge of energy that occurred when the blood pulse was amplified. He recognized that the Panlun Palace had done the right thing by placing Jiang Ting under surveillance, because as it turned out, he had been hiding his strength all this time. Jiang Chenghe's obsession with poisons and family betrayal had completely awakened Jiang Ting, and in such a situation, his daughter was only a useless pawn. Jiang Kaifeng was feared by the entire Panlong Palace, and now his son had grown up as well. Qianlong asked Jiang Ting not to approach and stay away from him, but the man only laughed and slapped him across the face, from which Jiang Tianlong grasped his face in pain. But Jiang Ting slapped him again, saying that he never had a face. He asked Jiang Tianlong how he felt about the fate of the abandoned toy, and he wondered why all this was happening. All the skills he'd honed over 3 years, all the obstacles he'd overcome. He was always careful, always friendly. He's a genius and put in so much effort. He was stronger than Jiang Ting. He wanted to know why Jiang Ting took everything away from him, and he did so every time. And Jiang Ting replied that that was it, because all he had on his mind was anger and hatred. Who have been poisoning his family and friends all this time. Jiang Ting revealed that he could not be worthy of the reward using only illegal methods to reach the top. Jiang Tianlong agreed that Jiang Ting could throw around such words so easily. After all, he had one. But he decided to remind her that Jiang Zi was still in his hands, and if he died here, she would die in even worse circumstances. At this moment, Jiang Ting realized what he needed to do. He just needed to choose for him the most horrible way of death that existed. And in the next instant, Jiang Tianlong's arm was twisted by streams of flames, causing him to experience unbearable pain. Jiang Qinghe demanded Jiang Ting to stop bullying his son now. Jiang Ting bothered that people like Tianlong could still shout, hence he advised him to use his tiny brain and think about what he should say to save his life. Jiang Qinghe immediately shouted that this was an assassination and the match should be ended, then jumped over the table and demanded that Jiang Hu call an end now. Jiang Ting said that Qianlong had one last chance, which made Qianlong wonder for a moment if he was serious. And after looking at his hand, he realized that he was as serious as possible. Suddenly, Jiang Ting started to twist Qianlong's arm, and he shouted right after which he promised that he would tell everything. He shouted that Jiang Kaiyu was still alive. Jiang Yu was stunned by what he heard, and Qianhe Qinghe started to panic because everyone might find out about it, and they shouldn't know. Looking at Jiang Qinghe, He Zhang wondered if Jiang Kaiyu was really alive. Jiang Tianlong shouted that he is telling the truth, that Jiang Zi's father is still alive. He is poisoned but not dead. He is in the Zhang family dungeon and the poison was obtained from him, and therefore he is the only one who can save Jiang Zi. Jiang Yang asked where that guy had gone, and Jiang Bao asked him not to worry about it since he believed that Jiang Zi's cousin would survive it. Chunduo asked why they were so worried, because since his grandfather had taken up the treatment, she would soon recover. Saying this, he sighed, thinking of the money. After a while, a sound was heard, and Jiang Yang and Jiang Bao immediately ran over to the opening doors asking if Jiang Zi was okay. Li Yan told them that her life is safe, but her body has suffered very serious damage, and so they need to find an ingredient to cure her. Jiang Yang asked what it was. He was ready to run to find it now, but Jiang Bao asked him to leave it to him. After that, the doctor asked them to calm down, as it would not be possible to find him easily, so they should stay here. And also Jiang Zi needs a lot of rest, and if they do not mind, she will stay here under the care of his maids. At the same time, Jiang Zi was lying unconscious and saying Jiang Ting's name. Out of surprise, Jiang Ting interrogated if he was really alive, to which the latter replied that it was like that. Jiang Zi and Jiang Yang's father was alive, and said that if he was satisfied with that, he could let him go. Jiang Ting was happy that he had finally found a way to save Jiang Zi. Jiang Chenghe was angry at the piece of shit he calls his son. After all, he had only revealed this to stay alive. And if this became known, he would be finished. Jiang Qinghe ordered Jiang Shou to go to the dungeon and kill him. Just as suddenly, Jiang Yu stopped Jiang Shou and asked what it was he was going to do, and Jiang Shou asked the head of the family to help him. Jiang Qinghe asked the elder how he dared to attack Jiang Shou and whether it meant that he was trying to raise a rebellion. Jiang Yu asked if it was a little late to hide, since even he wasn't afraid to reveal his actions and motives. Head Jiang pondered on the fact that Jiang Kaiyu was still alive. Jiang Qing was an idiot, and Jiang Ting's influence would only grow. All his plans were ruined in one day. He decided that he would never rely on the Jiang family again. The onlookers were enraged with Jiang Tianlong. He used such despicable methods and poisoned Jiang Zi while framing Jiang Shui. They wished that bastard would go straight to hell. Jiang Ting dispelled the flames around Jiang Tianlong's arm, thinking that he no longer had any reason to kill him. After all, living with a tarnished name was far more than the death he could give. Then he said goodbye to his brother and said that he hoped they would never meet again. He wanted Tianlong to look at him, to watch him take back everything that had been taken from him. He said that now his name would always be remembered in disgust and that he would no longer be able to hurt him. And he also admitted that he couldn't believe that he had been afraid of such a man before. With trembling hands, Jiang Tianlong unfolded his fan that contained poisonous games, after which he threw them at Jiang Ting, asking if he thought he was a hero and didn't think he could handle the Panlun Palace so easily. But the demon stopped all darts and ordered Tianlong to just lie quietly. He then noticed that the needles had poison on them, and he wondered what would happen if it got on anyone. And he started sticking needles into Jiang Tianlong's lips. Tianlong asked the demon to stop and started asking Jiang Ting to kill him. But the demon called Tianlong an idiot because he is also Jiang Ting. Jiang Ting told the demon to stop since it was time to leave, which made the demon laugh. The demon decided to thank Tianlong, for without his world, he wouldn't be able to go out into the sun, and so he would want to repay him. Immediately afterward, the demon used flames to break Jiang Tianlong's remaining limbs. After finishing the deed, the demon asked if he liked the gift, after which he started laughing. The demon called Jiang Ting ungrateful, for he should be happy. From now on, it would always be with him, and Jiang Ting wouldn't be able to get rid of it. In the end, this body will belong to him. Jiang Ting demanded the demon to shut up and said that was the end of it. Jiang Ting approached Jiang Tianlong and reached out to him, causing him to beg for mercy and begin apologizing for everything that had happened. Jiang Qinghe demanded that Jiang Hu stop it now. So Jiang Hu announced the final competition, and Jiang Ting was the winner. After which, Jiang Ting jumped down from the arena and landed not far from Jiang Xingyan. She asked why he was here and asked him to stop looking at her like that, while Jiang Tianlong, on the other hand, asked for his father and uncle to save him. Walking up to her, Jiang Ting smiled and said that he had won. Jiang Xingyan felt that even after becoming so strong, Jiang Ting was unable to resist her charm and that she could take control of him. After which she sobbed and started telling him that she had been forced to say all these horrible things, and now she was asking him to forget about it, and from now on he had to protect her. Jiang Ting asked why he should be against it. After all, they would soon be family. Now she will be able to marry his brother. He feels they are a perfect match. Jiang Tianlong reminded Jiang Xingyan that he was the one she had fallen in love with and offered to arrange the wedding now. He hoped that she would not leave him after all this. But she got angry and asked Jiang Ting how dare he do something like this, because he wouldn't be able to leave after such antics since her family was here. Jiang Ting kicked Tianlong and said that he could get away with it since they would be getting married soon. Jiang Tianlong started to ask his fiancée for help, but she brushed him off, shouting for him to leave her. Seeing this behavior, Jiang Ting decided to remind Jiang Xingyan that they were still in the Jiang family's territory, so she had better behave more courteously. Since it had come to this, Jiang Ting wanted to push them to the limit and see what they were capable of. Just as suddenly, Jiang Tianlong shouted to Jiang Ting that he was dead and immediately used the centipede's pulse. He was angry that someone dared to bully his sister right next to him. He wanted Jiang Ting to show respect in front of him. Jiang Xingyan told Jiang Ting not to even try to stop his brother, for his pulse was much stronger. But the one who missed her words blocked the blow using Liang Tian's palm. Unexpectedly, Jiang Ting showed strength equal to that of Jiang Tianlong. Head Jiang was amazed at how fast Jiang Ting was growing, because not long ago he was no match for his son. Jiang Ting couldn't understand how Jiang Tianlong had become so strong, After all, he was only an average fighter a year ago. But without letting it finish, Zhang Tianlong said that he didn't want to do it openly, but now there was no point in him hiding it. Right after that, Jiang Ting noticed Zhang Tianlong's badge. This badge was from the Panlong house, and Qianlong said that Jiang Ting was the first person he would use it against. Upon hearing about the Panlun house, people immediately began to flee from the arena, for if they were caught up in all of this, their souls would still come for them. Jiang Ting trembled. He was astonished that the son of the Zhang family was in the Panglong house. Zhang Tianlong felt funny that Jiang Ting was scared when he saw his badge. Did he realize his mistake? After all, Jiang Ting had already stopped showing his terrifying aura. Zhang Tianlong offered to give Jiang Ting forgiveness, but only if he begged for mercy. Jiang Ting realized that by wanting to check insulted someone special. The connection with the Panlun Palace explained how Zhang Tianlong was able to become so strong in just a year. And besides, Zhang's family was probably connected to his father's death. After a brief thought, Jiang Ting reached out and grabbed Zhang Tianlong by the collar, making him wonder what he was doing. Immediately after which, Jiang Ting pulled him up and head-butted him, shouting that he just had to make that one beg for mercy. Jiang Ting said that he just had to give a warm welcome to the Panlun Palace. From what he heard, Zhang Tianlong became furious. He couldn't let some bastard mock them, hence he decided to destroy him. Just as suddenly a loud shout was heard, demanding that they stop. Immediately afterward, Head Zhang personally stood between the fighting, while Zhang Qingho shouted about how, although his son was brazen, they didn't even leave room for him. Jiang Ting recognized that Head Zhang's strength was simply terrifying and asked if he was only trying to intimidate him because he was older. But the head replied, no, he just wanted to remind Jiang Ting to pay closer attention to his position. That made Jiang Ting think that he couldn't send people because of Zhang Qinghe, and Zhang Yu was watching Zhang Shou, and after a moment, he realized what the matter was. It was all because of Zhang Shou's blood pulse. Zhang Yu realized that he had messed up, because Zhang Shou's blood pulse was a golden cicada. Jiang Ting shouted to the elder that Zhang Shou shouldn't be far away, and that he should catch up with him. He ordered the elder to go to the dungeon as soon as possible. And Zhang Qinghe was angry that Zhang Fengyi was ruining his plans. But he knew that Zhang Shou knew his business. He was sure that Jiang Ting had lost. In the very next moment, Jiang Ting personally ran to the dungeon. He jumped on the lion coming down to him to save the elder. A moment later, Jiang Qinghe started complaining to Head Zhang about how he was ruining his plans and said that he wasn't going to back down. Zhang Tianlong asked if Jiang Qinghe was going to oppose them, to which he replied that he had no choice and that there was no point in it now. Suddenly, Head Zhang tied up his son and asked him to be quiet as he still had some business for them to discuss. After that, he let his son go and told Jiang Qinghe that he wouldn't ask what caused him to fail to deal with the poisoning. But if Zhang Kaiyu returns, he will be finished, and so the head offers him a deal. First, Head Zhang is going to kill Zhang Ongzi, and even if Jiang Ting can escape from the dungeon they attack, he will clearly have the last laugh. Secondly, Zhang Qinghe would have to kill Zhang Hongting using numerical advantage, and the Zhang family, on the other hand, would not help directly. He promised to give the one a Xiang blood badge. Xian Qinghe was shocked by this after all. This was the Shadow Sex Assassin badge, and no one survived being marked with it. Head Zhang confirmed his words and said that with him, Jiang Ting would no longer be a threat, but there would be a price to pay. And lastly, their families would be united without discord. Zhang Xingyan wanted to know how dare he use her in such a way, but the man demanded her to shut up. Head Zhang reminded Jiang Qinghe that time was running out, and therefore he already needed to answer whether he agreed to this. Jiang Qinghe asked what the price of all this would be, because with this amount of work, it wouldn't be cheap. Head Zhang said he would do it quickly and told him that he would help keep Jiang Qinghe's place as head. He would have to give half of all the family's assets and also discuss every issue with him. He then asked again if Jiang Qinghe agreed to this deal. Jiang Qinghe was angered by such a deal. He had paid too much to become the head of the family, and Head Zhang was demanding even more. He wasn't going to let Zhang Fengyi rob them even more, and thus ordered them to immediately get off their family's lands. Otherwise, Head Zhang asked what he would do to him. Jiang Qinghe didn't realize the situation he was in, and he had no power over it. He wondered if Qinghe remembered what he had done to get here. The traps of the dungeon were hardly enough to stop Jiang Ting, and Jiang Shou had no more chances to kill him. He asked how long their family could survive if Zhang Kaiyu was saved. After something like this, the Zhang family and the Panlong Palace would also come for their souls. Head Zhang offered him one last chance for salvation as his brother. He said that only by agreeing to the deal could he survive. Otherwise, he would only die in a ditch. Although Zhang Fengyi wanted to control their family, but Jiang Chunghei wasn't willing to let him. But he had no other choice. Jiang Ting must die by his hand. Zhang Fengyi ordered his son to notify the Panlong house about Jiang Ting's rise in strength and about Zhang Kaiyu. But no matter who won, He Zhang was sure that the Jiang family would end up in his hands. Suddenly, the sound of a bell was heard. Zhang Fengyi realized that it was the shadow set, which meant that it was time for him to leave. The members of the shadow sect arrived at Jiang Tinghai's place. He was confident that they would be able to take care of his problems. A voice from the palanquin asked Qing Ho if he was willing to pay the price for the assassination. Jiang Tinghai asked him not to worry, as he had plenty of gold scrolls and treasures for him. Then he asked if they needed information about their target. The assassin came out of the palanquin and said that they had ears and eyes all over the land and already knew far more about the target than he did. But he would only be able to choose one, Jiang Ting or Zhang Fengyi. Jiang Tinghai ordered to kill Jiang Ting first, after which he asked where their killers were. To which the Shadow Sect Master replied that they had their own methods, and other than the Panlun house, there were no forces here that required much attention from them. Master summoned Zhu Shiqi and immediately handed the sword to him. He said that he hoped that he could bring Jiang Ting's head along with the sword. Stopping beside Zhu Shiqi, the ghostly snake began to take the shape of a sword. Jiang Tinghai was stunned by what he saw. He was using spiritual energy transformation. This was the famous Kirin sword, and since they were using such a weapon, then they really wanted Jiang Ting's death, which meant he could finally relax. At the same moment, many soldiers gathered at the gate. Their leader said that if they succeeded, the Jiang family would belong to them. He ordered them to go ahead and kill anyone who got in the way. Jiang Bao asked where these assassins could have come from here. The only option was that they came for Jiang Zi, and Jiang Yang assumed that Jiang Ting had screwed up again and promised that he wouldn't forgive him for it. The assassins all pounced on Jiang Bao and Jiang Yang together. As Jiang Yang suddenly pulled out roots piercing through his opponents, he wasn't going to let them even one step closer to his sister. Seeing this, the soldiers realized that they should be more careful with its roots and split into several squads. The first squad would attack it while the second squad would wait for the right moment. Jiang Yang turned his roots into a wooden axe and began to fight off his opponents with it. And at the same moment, the soldiers from the second squad pierced the allies who were close to Jiang Yang. Jiang Yang was amazed at their cruelty. They had killed their allies just to get to him. But in the blink of an eye, Jiang Bao was able to deal with all of his closest opponents. He advised Jiang Yang to focus on the battle, and Jiang Yang said that he never thought that Jiang Tianlong would create so many warriors willing to die for him. To which Jiang Bao replied that they were not of their family. They had average blood pulses, clear formations, and good strategies. These people reminded him more strongly of the army. The commander ordered the soldiers to give them no rest. He ordered the 3rd Artillery Division to break through the enemy defenses. Immediately afterward, those threw many spears with explosives. Jiang Yang managed to create a shield to block the spears, but fought out the fact that he wouldn't be able to hold on for long. He asked Jiang Bao to take his sister while he held back the enemies. Jiang Bao told Jiang Yang that he would not survive, and that he would not be able to report to the young master about his death. Jiang Yang recognized that this guy might have been stupid, but he clearly had a heart. He was trying to think of what they should do, otherwise they would all die here. He once again asked Jiang Bao to save his sister when suddenly, the wooden barrier was pierced by a spear. Jiang Yang and Jiang Bao looked at the spear with the burning wick and realized that they were in a terrible situation. And a moment later, there was a deafening explosion that turned everything to ash. The commander praised his subordinates and ordered them to continue their suppressive fire, while he and the others went on their way. He ordered them to kill anyone they met along the way. Those who killed Jiang would be rewarded. Suddenly, a sword flew in from the sky with ease, piercing through the hapless commander's chest. The commander was shocked to see the attacker, for it was an assassin who had gone to the outside world. Golden Phoenix, Jiang Shui said that she had come here on the orders of the young master. She came to cleanse this place of such people. The soldiers were dumbfounded that the Jiang family had support and their leader had been killed. One of the soldiers took command and ordered them not to break formation, because even with reinforcements, the enemies are outnumbered. Their fire attack has worked, so they only need to keep the Golden Phoenix here until the targets are dead. Hearing this, Jiang Shui said that it seemed like a joke, after which she turned to Zhang Yang with Zhang Bao. She said that if the two of them were incapable of protecting the injured girl, they were a disgrace to their family. She demanded that they answer how long they were going to hold out. The soldiers were surprised at what they heard. They could not believe that anyone could have survived their attack, for it was impossible. But suddenly the silhouettes of Jiang Yang and Zhang Bao flashed in the flames. Jiang Yang reprimanded at how much the explosion hurt him. The commander realized that things were bad and ordered the soldiers to raise their shields, and in the next instant, Jiang Yang swirled his roots, directing the flames straight at the opponents. Zhang Bao asked if Jiang Yang was okay since he was injured, but the latter angrily shouted that he would kill them all. The soldiers thought it was a bluff and gathered to surround them for the sake of taking their lives. Jiang Shui came down beside the guys and said that Jiang Tianlong was behind the poisoning of Jiang Zi and asked how her health was. Jiang Yang asked if Jiang Ting had sent her. After all, they didn't need his pity. Jiang Shui grabbed Jiang Yang by the root on his chest and pulled him up. Below calling him a stubborn old log, she asked him to listen to the message from the young master. After winning the tournament, he flew up to her and told her that the Zhang family was about to be thrown into chaos, and so he had to ask for her help. He said he believes in her abilities, and hence he assigns her 3 tasks. First, she must find Jiang Zi and tell him about Jiang Ting finding the antidote. Secondly, she must protect her since Jiang Qinghe now knows about her being alive. And lastly, she has to inform Zhang Yang that his father Zhang Kaiyu is alive and he is imprisoned in a dungeon. Zhang Yang hesitated for a moment and then grabbed Jiang Shui and shouted that he knew it was not an accident. He wanted to know why they had done this to him, and he wanted to know if Jiang Ting had thought about his sister's feelings. After all, it was his fault that she was in such a state. The commander was pleased, for the opponents began to argue. He ordered the soldiers to go to the storerooms as they had come for valuable medicines and pills. Jiang Shui slapped Zhang Yang and reprimanded him for thinking as if the young master might have intentionally put Jiang Zi in danger. She talked about how the young master was doing all this just for the two of them, and if they didn't start being useful right now, she would knock them out. Jiang Bao told the others to stop their discussions as the enemy began to move. They began to surround them. The commander ordered the soldiers to leave no one alive and destroy the place in the name of their family. Jiang Shui said that she would handle it here herself and ordered the stubborn log to head to the dungeon. Suddenly, the commander lit the explosives on his belt and shouted that no one would leave here because they had made a promise. As suddenly, someone waved their hand saying that they were glad that their clinic was quite popular today. With that swing, all the ignited explosives were blown off the commander's belt. Zhang Bao, Yang, and Shui, along with the soldiers, couldn't understand what had happened. As a voice was suddenly heard nearby, Qian Duo asked, how dare they come here and make a mess like this? And Li Yan said that as a doctor, he could take care of everything in this clinic while they could rest. Zhang Yang told the doctor that he had already treated his sister and therefore he couldn't burden him anymore. Li Yan said that it's pretty ridiculous and asked if they even believe in his abilities. If Zhang Kaiyu dies, he's afraid that Jiang Zi won't last long. Jiang Yang thought about his sister, but Zhang Bao said that they didn't have time for that. And he was forced to agree with him, and so he ordered everyone to flee to the dungeon. The soldiers were dumbfounded that the targets were escaping, and it was all because of these two. Li Yan wondered if they were only plotting all this to steal their valuable herbs and medicines. Even though he was old, he could still see that they should return to the Zhang family as soon as possible. Since the enemies came on the scene, the soldiers were not going to hold back, so they set off the explosives and ran towards the target. Li Yan understood that they were doing this for their family's pride, but he really hates people like them, because regardless of age, people who hurt others in the name of family pride should die. Meanwhile, in the mountains of the Jiang family, Jiang Shui reached the dungeon and gave the guards an order from the head of the family. He told them that Jiang Ting had defected to the enemy and was planning to invade them to free the prisoners. The guards' goal was to protect this entrance from any outside intrusion and kill anyone they saw. Immediately afterward, the guards scattered throughout the prison in search of the intruders. They have to search every corner so no one can hide in them. Zhang Liang laughed from how many people were looking for Jiang Ting to kill him, after which he admitted that Xiao Tian's lion was really convenient because the guards wouldn't even realize that he was already inside. Jiang Ting asked him not to joke around because the traps in this place were really deadly, but Zhang Liang decided to remind him that he was a genius mechanic, and therefore he was not afraid of such traps. Jiang Ting said that it was time for them to leave, but Zhang Liang decided to remind him that it was impossible since they were surrounded, to which Jiang Ting replied that they needed to find a man and put on a show here. Zhang Liang was interested in Jiang Ting's words and asked what kind of show it would be. Zhang Baihe sat in the same dungeon and reasoned that if Zhang Tianlong won, he would be able to see his son. And then he could give him a warm power. He hoped his son would be all right. Suddenly, someone he knew approached his cell and praised him, saying he was a really good father. Afterward, Zhang Ting asked if he really thought his son would be able to wear these clothes. When Zhang Baihe heard this, he jumped up and ran to the bars and demanded to know what he had done and where he was now. But Jiang Ting brought Jiang Tinghe to the great and offered to ask him, and the latter grudgingly told him that they had lost everything, for Jiang Ting was now the head of the family. Baihe asked his brother what had happened and where his son was now. Jiang Ting replied to the one that he didn't have to understand what was going on here, but he should know the fact that the situation had changed. And now he only wants to ask one thing: the whereabouts of Zhang Kai Yu. Chung has shouted for Bai He not to talk about it, whereupon he told Jiang Ting that he could no longer be saved. He started laughing as Jiang Ting suddenly pushed him away, demanding silence. He explained to Bai He that he had two choices: stay here and rot forever, or either he would say what Jiang Ting wanted and get his freedom. And also his son will have the opportunity to wear all these clothes, after which he added that this is his promise. Without much thought, Zhang Baihe was forced to agree for the sake of his son. He then took them to the massive door and told them that Jiang Kai Yu was once the best of them. He was his role model. Baihe admitted that originally he didn't even want to participate in the power struggle. He wanted to atone for what he had done. And if his memory serves him correctly, Jiang Kai Yu is behind this very door. Opening the door, they stepped inside, and Zhang Baihe walked ahead, surprised at what he saw. After all, the room only contained a massive stone gargoyle. After a bit of thought, Jiang Ting guessed that the stone guardian stood to protect this place, and that even the strongest warriors wouldn't be able to break down these walls. He was angry at Jiang Tinghe for such a prank. Zhang Baihe admitted that he hadn't seen this before. At this moment, he fully realized that he was only a tool in his brother's hands, and the latter hadn't even initiated him about such a thing. Just as suddenly, many steel needles came out of the wall with the gargoyle. With no other choice, Jiang Ting threw Qinghe standing next to him to block the needles, and he immediately began to be pierced through with a huge number of needles. But Jinghe wasn't a person. He was a mechanism created by Zhang Liang. Zhang Baihe was surprised at how he had been tricked by the puppet. Zhang Liang, on the other hand, was panicked that his top-quality doll had been destroyed. He decided to threaten Jiang Ting, as he had promised to use the car for the show and not as a shield. He demanded something in return for a counterweight to the doll, which hadn't been made in over 100 years. Jiang Ting took out a cloud sword scroll and asked what he thought of it. Zhang Liang was surprised at what he saw because the Omni machine in front of him was something he had only seen in books. He asked Jiang Ting why he needed something like this. Jiang Ting told him that he had obtained this technique at the Door of Death, and that the cloud sword technique was imprisoned in this strange box. And he also told him about the guardian who claimed to be the ancestor of the pulse machines. Therefore, he believes that Zhang Liang will be the one who can figure out the technique. Hearing this, Zhang Liang could no longer contain his greedy face and asked if he would really get this legendary item. Jiang Ting confirmed this, immediately after which Zhang Liang extended his hand towards the artifact, and his hand immediately began to be covered by the mechanical armor. He thanked Jiang Ting for something like this and said that now it was his turn to prove himself. He was going to break the seal as quickly as possible. Jiang Ting looked at the scroll in his hand. The inside of the cube appeared to be a true cloud sword technique, and even now, this scroll was exuding power. On the other hand, He hoped that Zhang Liang could make decent use of his gift. Jiang Baihe decided to ask Jiang Ting why he had saved him, to which the latter replied that he had made him a promise. Baihe says what is required and stays alive. Jiang Baihe wanted to know why, because he had tried to kill him, to which Jiang Ting replied that he didn't care about that. But if he found out about the betrayal, he wouldn't be so merciful anymore. Meanwhile, Zhang Liang had already finished breaking into the dungeon and finally succeeded. After which he turned around to Jiang Ting and boasted over how cool he looked now. Jiang Ting decided to fix his appearance by tying up his hair, while Zhang Liang explained that all the traps had been defused and that they could now pass on. After which he went to his uncle's cell alone, ignoring the misunderstanding Zhang Liang. Reaching the end of the corridor, Jiang Ting bowed to his uncle, after which Kai Yu asked if he was going to make eye contact with him while greeting him. Jiang Ting looked up and was horrified to the point of tears at what he saw before him. The emaciated Jiang Kai-yu was chained and wrapped around roots while liquid was pumped into his body through green tubes. He glanced at Jiang Ting and said, "He's late." Jiang Ting was angry that someone dared to do such a cruel thing to his uncle. Jiang Kai-yu admitted that he had long dreamed of seeing Jiang Ting at least one more time, because for a dead person, it was truly a gift. Jiang Ting thought it was best not to tell him that Jiang Zi was on the verge of life, as his uncle was in a terrible state and was going to get him out now. Kai Yu said that he didn't need to be saved, because releasing him would only turn things around, so Jiang Ting should take matters into his own hands. But Jiang Ting refused to leave him here after all. Waiting would only make things worse, and if there were problems, he would deal with them. Kai Yu asked him to stop again. He said that if his bonds were broken, the exits would be blocked, and the poison from the pillars would fill the entire room in an instant. But Jiang Ting continued to stand his ground. He said that he wouldn't have come if he was afraid, and therefore he would save him. Jiang Kai-yu dared, and said that he believed in him immediately, after which Jiang Ting hit the ceiling in 2 places. After which he collapsed straight into the poison pillars. And even Kai-yu mentally recognized that it was quite clever. Jiang Ting had warned him that it would hurt, and so he would have to be patient. And in an instant, he struck many blows, freeing his uncle from all shackles. Piling his uncle on his back, Jiang Ting told the man that freedom was not far away. And as soon as he started running, the poison started coming out from under the rocks, trying to catch up with everyone in the room, after which a huge semblance of an all-consuming beast began to form from the poison. And to escape him, Jiang Ting threw a fireball into his mouth. The power of this fire was enough to stop the poison. Watching him, Jiang Kai-yu began to think that this brave and determined young man was becoming more and more like his father by the minute. Kai-yu smirked at the thought that they were right, for now Kai Feng would be able to rest in the knowledge that his son would continue his legacy. Their family was finally in good hands. Baihe asked Zhang Liang why there were explosions if he had disarmed everything, to which he replied that it was all over. And a moment later, Jiang Ting, who was running past, shouted that they had to leave. Upon seeing Kai-yu, Baihe was dumbfounded at how he was being abused, but coming to his senses, he told Jiang Ting that they were surrounded, but he could help them. Jiang Liang told Jiang Ting that his uncle urgently needed medical attention, to which he replied that he would take care of it when they got out. They ran until suddenly the passageway began to close in front of them, and the room they were in began to collapse on them. Finding himself in such a situation, Jiang Liang began to weep. He wished to try out his new armor and also marry a beautiful girl. Jiang Ting demanded that he calm down and said that only he could get them out of this dungeon. He said that he wouldn't let him die before he himself was gone, but he is unable to protect them for long, and so he needs his power. He told Jiang Long that the latter was a machinic genius as well as the hope of the forgotten pulse. He asked if Jiang Long would like to revive the machine pulse technique, and he agreed, for he still had many things to complete. Jiang Long raised a trembling hand and said that this machine was created by generations of masters and forged over thousands of years. He asked how a tiny pulse of blood could compare to this. Jiang Long gained determination. He was ready to show them the strength in his hands. Jiang Ting held back the collapse with his last strength and asked Jiang Long to act. Immediately after which, Jiang Long ordered the celestial machine to awaken. Meanwhile, outside, the guard reported to the elder that the dungeon had begun to collapse, but he told him not to panic. Jiang Shou didn't expect Jiang Ting to fall into the trap so quickly. He was sure that Jiang Ting wouldn't get out, since there were still many traps in the dungeon. After which he started laughing, thinking about the fact that after all this, all they would have to do is take his body. Just as suddenly, a voice asked if this was really it. So looking up, Jiang Shou saw Jiang Yang flying at him. And before he could dodge the blow, the elder received the strongest damage from the enemy. The guards were dumbfounded that their elder could be defeated so quickly. Just as suddenly, Zhang Bao appeared in front of Jiang Yang and said that they had come to rescue Supreme Elder Zhang Kaiyu and asked if they were going to stand in their way. Just as suddenly, Jiang Shou ran up to the guards and ordered them to stop Jiang Yang with Zhang Bao. Jiang Yang was surprised to see the elder, but looking down, he realized that it was because of his cicada pulse. Immediately after that, the guards pounced on Jiang Yang, but he shouted at them to get out of his way and use the roots to deal with them. Zhang Bao praised the soldiers for their loyalty, but unfortunately for them, they had chosen the wrong master. Immediately afterward, he dealt with all of them in the blink of an eye. Just as suddenly, there was an underground tremor, and Jiang Yang and Zhang Bao immediately rushed to Jiang Ting's rescue. Jiang Shou smirked. He had been waiting for this hour for a long time. He summoned the cicada's golden pulse, second form, and used the cicada's cry to speed up the process. The cicada's cry was so strong that the ground began to crumble. And that was bad because the dungeon was starting to collapse faster and faster. And to slow him down, Jiang Bao dared to attack the elder, and Jiang Shou mockingly said that they couldn't get to him. It was worth it for Jiang Bao to break through his chest, as it turned out that this Jiang Shou was a fake as well. Seeing the dungeon collapsing, Jiang Yang ran towards it, but Jiang Bao said that it was too dangerous and that they had to retreat. And just a minute later, it completely collapsed right before their eyes. Jiang Yang sobbed, for this meant that his father, Jiang Ting, and even Jiang Zi, collapsing to his knees, he said that he had nothing more left and that from now on it was over. And for a while, they were already surrounded by the soldiers who had come up. Jiang Shou came out from behind the backs of the soldiers and laughed. He asked if Jiang Yang was just confident. Jiang Yang couldn't move, thinking it was over, but Jiang Bao ordered him to pull himself together. Deciding not to break the comedy any further, Jiang Shou ordered the guards to kill the intruders. But Jiang Bao broke the aspiring spears towards them. He demanded that they leave Jiang Yang alone. Jiang Shou asked, and what's in it for him after all? One move and Jiang Yang is dead. And as soon as Jiang Bao was distracted, the guards put their weapons to his neck as well. Jiang Shou ordered to kill those two just as an explosion suddenly sounded behind his back. And turning around, he was shocked at what he saw. He couldn't understand what it was. Zhang Long said that it was a good question since he hadn't thought of a name for him yet, then started giggling. After that, he thought that since they had destroyed the south wall to escape, they would call this machine the South Crusher. Jiang Ting told Jiang Shou that he had grabbed his brother especially for him as well, and asked if the latter should be grateful. Everyone was shocked by this huge machine and the fact that Jiang Ting was able to survive the destruction of the dungeon. And Jiang Bao recognized that Jiang Ting was truly their young master. Jiang Ting asked the guards if they would refuse to release his family. Jiang Shou realized that the end had come because the traps couldn't stop Jiang Ting, and this could mean that Zhang Kaiyu had been saved. Therefore, he ordered the guards to kill Jiang Ting and all of his underlings right now. Jiang Liang was frightened by how many people advanced on them. After all, just the two of them would definitely die. Jiang Ting told him to calm down. Jiang Shou didn't care about Jiang Baihe's life, and therefore he should stay here and protect them. Jiang Liang asked Jiang Ting to stop as he was sure that he couldn't handle it alone. But the latter asked him not to worry and jumped towards the enemy squad. Upon seeing him, his guards were confused and couldn't decide who would go to attack Jiang Ting. But Jiang Shou was ordered to just attack Jiang Ting altogether. And as soon as the guards got close, Jiang Ting became inflamed and threw them all away. He then approached the guard, who couldn't believe he was alive, and said that he had had enough since he was a member of the Zhang family. Jiang Ting walked along the guards and said that they were all of the same blood, but they were tearing each other up like beasts. He believes that each of them is capable of thinking for themselves, but if they still want to harm his family, Jiang Ting told them that he needed their strength to make their family great again. He invited them to follow him. Suddenly, one of the guards noticed that Jiang Ting was just a child and asked if he thought he could win their loyalty, and only the true head of the family can command them. He asked Jiang Ting who he thought he was and rushed at him to attack him. But in the next instant, Jiang Ting's lightning blade was already at his neck, and the guard must realize that this strike could easily kill him. Jiang Ting explained to them that their blind loyalty only hurt their family. He said they have weakened over the years, but are still fighting amongst themselves. He asked if they had thought about the consequences of all this. The words made the soldier's legs shake. The guard knelt down and apologized to the young master. He wanted him to forgive him, for he would do anything for their family. Jiang Shou realized that it couldn't go on like this any longer, because if this continued, all of his warriors would leave. Jiang Shou shouted to Jiang Ting that he had fought for their family long before he was born. He decided to blame the destruction of their family on Jiang Ting. He reminded him that Jiang Ting did not respect the elders or the elderly. He demanded that Jiang Ting respect. Jiang Shou announced that he would cleanse himself of filth like Jiang Ting and lead their family to greatness. Jiang Ting asked him what the matter was and why he should respect him, after which he turned around, showing a smirk, and promised that he would visit his grave. Jiang Shou shook with anger and told Jiang Ting that he was blinded by his self-confidence and ego. He asked what right he had to say such words. Immediately afterward, he used the cicada's blood pulse and attacked the captives. He hit Jiang Bao, shouting that it was no longer Zhang Kaifeng's family, but Jiang Bao managed to dodge the blow. And in the next instant, Jiang Shou was dissected by Jiang Ting for making an attempt on his family. But the one turned out to be a golden cicada. The real one was trying to escape. Thinking about the killing intent he felt, he realized that he no longer had a chance to escape. And in the next instant, Jiang Ting set him on fire. Jiang Shou shouted that there was no way Jiang Ting could bring peace to their family. His father had failed, and he should feel it too. There are still many powerful forces he doesn't know about, and the Jiang family is nothing compared to them. After these cries, the elder collapsed to the ground. He said it would never end and started laughing until he finally rested. Jiang Ting said that he knew about it, but Jiang Shou surrendered before the fight even started. He swore that he would fight until his last breath. One of the soldiers got on his knee and apologized to the young master, for they were fools. After that, the rest of the soldiers kneeled down as well. They were willing to serve the true young master, and they were willing to do whatever he ordered them to do. Jiang Yang locked himself away. He only thought of his father, Jiang Ting and Jiang Zi. As he suddenly heard a familiar voice, he said, "I'm here, brother." Jiang Yang looked up and saw Jiang Ting smiling and said that he might be late, but he would never break his promise. He said that he had saved his father, who was the last hope for Jiang Zi's healing. Jiang Yang turned towards the noise and saw Jiang Liang waving at him. He was laughing from how cool it was and shouted to Jiang Yang that his father was here. Jiang Yang stood up, and a gleam appeared in his eyes. He brought back the hope of saving his sister. He brought back his father. Immediately afterward, he ran to the southbound wrecker his father was on. Jiang Bao told Jiang Ting that Jiang Zi's condition had been stabilized, but she needed her father to fully recover. To which Jiang Ting replied that they shouldn't be too careless, as more obstacles would come their way. To leave, they must make sure the bridge is intact, but thanks to Jiang Yang's power over the tree, they can strengthen the bridge to protect their uncle. Just as suddenly, a familiar voice was heard. He asked to look at something. After which, everyone looked at Jiang Liang, and at the same moment, the soldier exposed his blade. Everyone was shocked that Jiang Liang was defeated as soon as it was over. Jiang Qinghe took off his mask and told Jiang Ting that he was indeed as naive as his father, but unfortunately, it wouldn't work anymore. Jiang Yang demanded that Qinghe let his father go, and Jiang Ting tried to figure out when Qinghe was able to get into their ranks. Jiang Ting assumed that Jiang Shou had also been deceived all this time. He realized that he had greatly underestimated his strength and cruelty, and he urgently needed to save his uncle. Jiang Qinghe told them not to even think about it. After all, Kaiyu's life was in his hands, and since he knew too much, he should die. Of course, he offered Jiang Ting to die instead of Jiang Kaiyu. Jiang Ting demanded that Qinghe lower his blade if he didn't want to regret it. Jiang Qinghe asked if they were really trying to threaten him and took Jiang Kaiyu's life. In his last breath, Jiang Kaiyu only thought that Jiang Ting would not forget the promise he had made to him. And Jiang Ting, realizing this, mentally asked him not to worry about it. He wasn't going to let him die in vain. The sight of his father's death made Jiang Yang quiet, and after a moment, the crystal on his forehead cracked. The roots around him began to grow zealously and formed him 2 additional arms, while a horn grew from the crystal on his forehead. Jiang Bao said that if Jiang Yang continued to use this technique, he would die, and Jiang Ting thought about taking Cheng He with him. Jiang Cheng-hai remembered how this little monster had once managed to injure Jiang Kai-feng. Even then, he had decided that he needed to kill it as it was too dangerous. Jiang Yang jumped onto the platform in a flash and immediately prepared for Jiang Tinghai's attack. Jiang Tinghai asked for Jiang Yang's gratitude, for if it wasn't for him, his father would have died long ago. Jiang Yang delivered a crushing blow with his huge hand. Jiang Yang was shocked by what happened, and Jiang Qinghao told the man that if he hadn't allowed him to train in foreign lands, he wouldn't have become so strong. Jiang Bao was amazed by Jiang Tinghai's strength as he blocked the sword attack, but Jiang Ting told him that it wasn't Qinghao. Jiang Qinghai telling the assassin that if he died, they would not get paid, and therefore they should perform as well as possible. The assassin said it would cost even more, but Qinghai said he had had enough, and that it was his time to do his job. As the assassin suddenly became visible, he said that the Shadow Sect would take care of it. Jiang Ting and Jiang Bao were stunned by the invasion of the Shadow Sect. They must stop them as soon as possible. Jiang Ting rushed towards the assassin. He knew that Jiang Yang would not be able to defeat the Shadow Sect alone, hence he must personally destroy their assassin. Just as suddenly, Jiang Yang formed a huge axe from the roots, and without thinking long, he tried to attack the enemies again. The killer said it was the most annoying job he'd ever gotten. But even that kind of work is not a problem for him. And in the blink of an eye, he landed many blows, injuring Jiang Yang. Jiang Ting caught his brother and examined him and noticed that he didn't have any severe injuries, probably because he wasn't their target. He considered himself lucky. The assassin announced to everyone that Jiang Ting's life was the goal of the Shadow Sect today. He asked the others not to interfere since he was their only target. Jiang Ting was happy about this. After all, it meant that no one else would get hurt. Just as suddenly, the soldiers stepped in front of him and shouted to the assassin that he would only get Jiang Ting by stepping over their corpses. The soldiers recognized that they had acted foolishly by trusting Jiang Shou, and therefore they wanted to redeem themselves. They didn't want the young master to worry further. Jiang Ting thanked his soldiers and said that he would have to take this fight. Jiang Tinghai called them a pack of dogs and laughed. He asked if they still remembered who their real master was, and then he said that they knew too much, so none of them would be able to leave alive. Even after hearing all of this, the soldiers were not going to leave Jiang Ting behind. They were willing to protect the young master, even at the cost of their own lives. The assassin, having heard enough of this, asked if it was really so and decided to personally test their loyalty. And in the blink of an eye, he broke through the ranks of soldiers, surprising Jiang Ting with his speed. And in the next instant, everyone saw the assassin pierce their young master. Jiang Tinghai laughed loudly. He had finally succeeded in killing Jiang Ting. The assassin was about to strike Jiang Ting one more time, but he stopped the sword with his hand. Jiang Ting told the assassin that he was moments away from victory, but unfortunately, this was his only chance. Jiang Cheng'e was frustrated by such a slow assassin. He decided that he would rather do everything alone. Qinghe kicked Jiang Skyyu, shouting to not block his way, and said that after Jiang Songting died, everything would belong to him. Just as suddenly, Jiang Kaiyu grabbed his leg and asked him to stop. He told his brother that they were wrong from the beginning. Jiang Qinghe had told him about fighting the other elders only for the sake of their family. But what had happened? Jiang Qinghe raised his sword above him and ordered him to shut up. After all, he was always right. After piercing his brother, Jiang Qinghao asked why, and he betrayed him. He said that it wasn't him who killed him, it was Jiang Ting, for he was the one who made him look like Jiang Kaiyu. After killing his brother, Jiang Qinghai went to Jiang Kaiyu disguised as Jiang Baihe. He said he would kill him and only then would it be over. He raised his blade upward and was about to send him to hell. But in delivering the final blow, the sword flashed right over his head. He missed due to the fact that at the moment of impact, a bolt of lightning descended from the heavens, depriving him of his arm. Jiang Tinghai couldn't understand why things were like this and screamed, falling to his knees. Shortly before the battle, Zhang Liang told Jiang Ting that he had done the right thing by trusting him and admitted that he had not known before that he was so strong. He then told Jiang Baihe that he should start thanking him right now. Just as suddenly, Jiang Baihe was up to something and used a strange technique on Jiang Kaiyu. But Jiang Ting noticed this and immediately repelled Jiang Baihe's attack. Jiang Baihe advised to trust him if they wanted to get Jiang Kaiyu out of here. Jiang Ting and Jiang Liang didn't fully trust him yet, and Jiang Ting asked if he was trying to threaten him. Jiang Baihe explained that it was dark and they didn't know what was going on around them, which Jiang Qinghao could take advantage of for his own purposes. He asked Jiang Tina if he could guarantee that he would get them all out of here. Jiang Ting dispelled the flames and asked the elder what his plan was. Yi Jiangbaihe explained that he wanted to swap appearances with Kai Yu. That way, under unexpected circumstances, he would die instead. Jiang Liang said he didn't trust him, and Jiang Ting asked why he was trying to help them. Baihe asked to accept it as an apology for what he had done back then, but he would advise him to turn back before it was too late. Trembling, he told him that his brother was treacherous and cruel, and that if he got out of here, his son would suffer. He then fell on his knees before him and said that he trusted him, and therefore he would like Jiang Ting to take care of his son. In his last breath, Jiang Baihe drew a symbol with his blood. Finishing moaning in pain, Jiang Qinghai shook, after which he swore that he would kill Jiang Ting. The demon asked Jiang Tina had thought of the consequences of freeing him only to save his uncle. The assassin told Jiang Ting that the sword Kirin was not a simple weapon, and therefore he would die in agony. Just as suddenly, Jiang Ting laughed and said that he wouldn't have survived without him, and weakness was a sin. The assassin was surprised at what he saw. He was trying to understand why Jiang Ting suddenly started laughing. Jiang Ting began to transform, his face covered in black marks, and he laughed, saying that weakness was a sin. The demon drew out his blade and thanked Jiang Ting for providing him with a body. Jiang Bao and the assassin were horrified by the strength they suddenly felt. And a moment later, Kirin's sword was covered in dark red demon lightning. The assassin was amazed at what he saw. The sword Kirin recognized him, and yet even a Sexta master is unable to control it. The demon liked his newfound blade and was about to test it out. The assassin recognized that since Jiang Ting was able to seize his blade, then he really deserved to die. Hence, he was no longer going to hold back. Suddenly, the sect leader contacted him and told Zhu Shiqi that he had completed his mission and should return now. The assassin told the master that Jiang Ting was still alive and that his mission was not yet complete, to which the master replied that if he said one more word, his head would fly off his shoulders. The killer then took out a sphere and said that he would come back for it immediately, after which he disappeared into the fog. Seeing this, Jiang Chenghe started shouting at the Shadow Sect. Instead of fulfilling the contract, their assassin fled the battlefield. The demon was frustrated with the assassin, the one who had escaped before their fight even began. Jiang Qinghai realized that he had greatly overestimated the Shadow Sect, and with his injuries, he couldn't survive. He was finished even if reinforcements arrived in time, so he thought he should kidnap Jiang Kaiyu and get out of here. Just as suddenly, he sensed something and looked up to see that Jiang Ting was right beside him. Jiang Ting said that it would be quite fun to play with him. Jiang Qinghai tried to run away from the bastard, but the next moment, the bastard pierced his arm. After watching him scream for a bit, the demon said it got tiresome pretty quickly. Jiang Qinghai grinned and motioned for Jiang Ting to look around. After which he started laughing madly. He said that he had spent half of his treasures to kill him, and his reinforcements were already here. Jiang Ting was finished. Jiang Ting sighed and said that it was suddenly too noisy. After which he turned towards the direction of the noise and was surprised, for the Zhang family had come to see them. Zhang Fengyi arrived with reinforcements and asked Qing Hao if he was late. Jiang Tinghe grinned and said that he had arrived on time, and if he dealt with Jiang Ting, his treasure would be his. Zhang Fengyi praised Qing Hao for understanding how to make him laugh and asked when they would start discussing the terms. Jiang Tinghe asked what the man wanted to say, and the man replied that he hated sharing things, and that he's always planned to take everything they have, and therefore he wants them all dead. Jiang Tinghe thought the man was joking and said that he had never once treated him badly. Zhang Fengyi sighed and asked if Qing He remembered their small alliance in the past. He said their bond, their union was just, he only wanted to corrupt their family to absorb it into his own. And now is the era of the Zhang family. Chief Zhang has ordered to kill everyone. The fall of the Jiang family will be the rise of his own family. And just a few moments later, the soldiers of the Jiang family and the Zhang family clashed in a bloody battle. Some of Zhang's soldiers had insects on their heads, causing the soldiers to swell up, and exploded, destroying enemy soldiers. Everyone was shocked at such a heartless act, The enemy was destroying his own family for the sake of victory. Jiang Tunghe realized that if this continued, he would die. Therefore, he suggested Jiang Ting to unite, because the fate of their family hangs in the balance, and if they fight together, Jiang Ting pinned Jiang Ting's head and ordered him to be quiet. He asked if Qinghai was still capable of fighting, or if he was just trying to die, after which he cursed, for he hates too bright a light. Zhang Fengyi praised the soldiers, but said that it was not enough. After all, it was time for them to die for their family. He ordered them to attack, promising that their souls would forever shine in the radiance of their family's glory. The soldiers of the Zhang family were not going to retreat even from such enemies. They wanted to protect the family, even if they had to sacrifice their lives. Head Zhang was angry because of the enemy's stubbornness. He was going to point out their mistakes. Jiang Bao was trying to think of what they should do. After all, they couldn't just block the enemy's attacks. Jiang Ting thought that this all looked quite fun and rushed towards the enemy. And riding the Black Lightning, he was able to deal with many enemies in just an instant. Immediately after which, he was near Zhang Fengyi in the blink of an eye and attacked him. But unexpectedly, the attack did not damage the head, and the head praised Jiang Ting for becoming so strong in such a short time. But even that was too little to win. He asked if Jiang Ting had come to surrender. Jiang Ting started laughing madly at the bastard. He decided to show the bastard a little trick, and he immediately started running away from the stronger enemy. Jiang Ting showed that one a mocking face and told him to try to grab him. Head Jiang became angry at being mocked and ordered the soldiers to kill Jiang Ting. Running away from the soldiers, Jiang Ting laughed and beckoned them over. And on the other side of the bridge, Jiang's men were already on standby to protect the young master. Jiang Ting ordered the soldiers out of his way, and they were horrified by the terror radiating from his aura. And once he got to the other side, he laughed at the fact that the enemies bought it and destroyed the bridge. He scoffed at the fact that they were dying, knowing that they had never done anything for their family. He said that if anyone wanted to fight them, they would have to step over him first. Suddenly, one of the soldiers asked how they could get to the other side if the bridge was destroyed. This kind of embarrassment would make even Jiang Ting's demon able to blush in shame. After which he told them to shut up and added that he would move them after they killed Zhang Fengyi. Zhang Fengyi was flattered by such attention and immediately used his blood pulse, which even Jiang Ting thought was strange. Head Jiang wanted to see if they could save face after his attack. He said that although he didn't have any people left, Jiang Ting still had a lot of them. One of the soldiers chopped down the insects tending to Jiang Ting and told him to watch both of them, whereupon he asked him not to worry as they could easily handle these bugs. As it suddenly swelled up, at this moment, the soldier realized that it was those centipedes and asked Jiang Ting to kill him. Zhang Fengyi asked Jiang Ting what he would do with his comrades, but the man did not hesitate to chop up his soldier, and he thanked him before he died. Jiang Ting found this annoying and looked at his trembling hand. Head Zhang praised Jiang Ting for hitting so well and asked if he could continue killing in the same manner. A large number of soldiers came out to Jiang Ting, afflicted by centipedes. They begged the young master to help them. They begged him to die. Jiang Ting was shocked by all of this. More and more soldiers were coming to him begging for death. Zhang Fengyi wanted to know if he would kill them all or die with them. The soldiers asked the young master to kill them. They told him they couldn't control themselves. The demon said none of this was fun anymore and dropped his sword. He wasn't going to play anymore. And in the next instant, the soldiers pounced on Jiang Ting, taking his life along with him. Zhang Fengyi began to laugh, for not long ago, Jiang Ting thought that he could win. The wooden dome inside the epicenter of the explosion began to crack open. Jiang Yang told Jiang Ting that he wouldn't let him die while he was alive. Jiang Ting asked why he saved him. After all, he was the reason why everyone died. Jiang Yang said that it was their duty to die for their family. After all, they are Jiang's family. He admitted that they shouldn't have been mad at each other all this time. Jiang Yang told Jiang Ting that he should avenge all of them, and Jiang Ting was horrified by what he saw. There was a huge hole gaping in Jiang Yang's body and asked why he had saved him. To which Jiang Yang replied that he saved him because Jiang Ting is their leader, he is their future. Jiang Ting thanked Jiang Yang for everything he had done for them, and promised that he wouldn't disappoint them all. It was a surprise to Zhang Fengyi that the Jiang family dogs had decided to protect their young master at the cost of their lives. He asked how such a hard-hearted young gentleman could enjoy the fruits of their sacrifices. Jiang Ting replied that it was thanks to their sacrifices that he was able to get here. After thinking over the situation, Jiang Ting realized that the old fox's maneuver was too vicious to deal with, and he wasn't enough for it. But the duty of revival fell on his shoulders. Jiang Ting shuddered at the thought that he couldn't handle the enemy. Zhang Fengyi smirked and praised Jiang Ting for realizing this. But Jiang Ting wasn't going to give up. The spirits of his family were behind him, and he must do something for their sake. Zhang Fengyi recognized that Jiang Ting's gallant vigor was no longer the same as before, and he was becoming similar to Jiang Kaifeng. Jiang Ting rushed towards the head of Jiang and used a multitude of Liangtian palms. And with powerful explosions, he destroyed the huge centipede Zhang Fengyi. Zhang Fengyi didn't believe that Jiang Ting should have this kind of strength. He thought that he had changed too much these days. Jiang Ting vowed that even at the cost of his life, he would avenge everyone he had ruined, and attacked him with a dragon blood pulse along with a Kirin sword. Zhang Fengyi said that he had never even thought that the trash from the past would manage to become like this. Jiang Ting was astonished at what he saw. It was a blood armor, and his attacks were useless against it. Zhang Fengyi said that using the 7th blood stage in this manner was a complete wastefulness, and attacked him saying that you can't just spew your blood. Zhang Fengyi revealed that Jiang Kaifeng and their bloodline were improving too fast, and therefore he couldn't believe that they didn't have any hidden treasures. And he promised Jiang Ting to keep him alive if he revealed the secret of improving his bloodline. Jiang Ting agreed to reveal his secret to him and told him not to blink. After which he used dragon transformation, and Zhang Fengyi couldn't understand what was happening. Zhang Fengyi's blood pulse began to go out of his control and absorbed. Jiang Ting said that he didn't even know if Zhang Fengyi would be able to live long enough to learn this. Zhang Fengyi howled from falling into his trap. He couldn't lose to this boy. After which he attacked Jiang Ting with a multitude of centipede eggs. Jiang Ting told the one that he wouldn't succeed even if he put in all his efforts. Zhang Fengyi explained to Jiang Ting that the gulf between them was too deep and that he wouldn't even be able to harm him. Jiang Ting created a fireball and said that he had one more breath and would use it to avenge the Jiang family. But Zhang Fengyi clearly didn't think so and pierced Jiang Ting with a pulse of blood, after which he told him that it was only a dying exhalation. Zhang Fengyi laughed with Jiang Ting. After all, the revenge he had been talking about all this time turned out to be nothing but empty words. Jiang Ting told him that he did it so that he could be eaten, and since he opened his mouth, then he wouldn't mind giving it to him. After saying those words, he shoved the ball straight into Zhang Fengyi's throat. Zhang Fengyi was angry at Jiang Ting's sudden stunt and asked what he had fed him. Jiang Ting replied that it was the explosive centipede that he was so proud of. Zhang Fengyi laughed from this. After all, this was his art, and only he could control it. Jiang Ting admitted that he was aware of this and explained that under the pressure of his blood pulse, it was already a different matter. And if he didn't show his desperation, he wouldn't have been able to get this opportunity. Jiang Ting said that someone as cunning as Zhang Fengyi had to anticipate his every move, and so he came up with something that was beyond his imagination. And only at this moment did Zhang Fengyi realize that Jiang Ting had long since caught one of the bombs, and everything he was doing was for the sake of this moment. Jiang Ting confirmed Head Zhang's words and explained that mere death would not be enough to comfort the martyr spirit of the Zhang family. He thought it rather satirical that he could only do so by dying with him. Zhang Fengyi panicked. They thought that it was absolutely impossible as suddenly it started to balloon. Being on the verge of life and death, Zhang Fengyi was confident that they would soon arrive and rescue him. And a few moments later, a rift opened up in the sky from which white birds flew out. Zhang Fengyi spat out Jiang Ting's gift and thanked the messenger from the Panlun house. Jiang Ting whined. He had almost made it, but now he had a new problem. But seeing the messenger, Panlun, Jiang Ting wondered how it could be her. Liu Munan announced that she was protecting Jiang Ting on the orders of the Panlun court, and therefore she asked Zhang Fengyi to leave if possible. She said that from now on, Jiang Ting would be the guest of honor in the Panlun palace, and that he would be under their protection. Zhang Fengyi couldn't understand what was going on. After all, the Panlun palace had always been in favor of the Zhang family absorbing the Zhang family. Trying to understand why they were ingratiating themselves with Jiang Ting, he realized that they wanted to know his secret of improving blood pulse. Liu Munan said that those who intend to harm Jiang Ting will become the enemies of the entire Panlun Palace. Suddenly, Jiang Ting noticed that the white birds were healing his wounds when he touched them. Jiang Ting badly saw Liu Munan as the same girl he had saved in the forest of ice and flame, and he wanted to know why she had started serving in the Panlun Palace. Or maybe she was originally from the Panlun Palace and everything that happened was their plan. Whatever the case, she would be his enemy from now on. Just as suddenly, Liu Munan threw herself at him with a hug and confessed that she had never thought that they would meet like this. Jiang Ting asked her who she really was. Zhang Fengyi was confused. Jiang Ting was familiar with the person from the Panlun Palace, but he couldn't understand what was going on and how this was even possible. Jiang Ting got out of her embrace and asked why she stopped him from taking revenge on the Jiang family warriors. If she came with good intentions, he wanted to know what she wanted from him. Liu Munan told Jiang Ting that a lot of things have happened to her since they broke up, and it would be hard for her to explain everything quickly, and so she wants him to just not hold a grudge against her. She said that he had just tried to set off a bomb while he was near her, and if he put his plan into action, he would suffer greatly from such a thing. She asked him not to do something stupid like that. Zhang Fengyi said that it was the perfect age to fall in love, but he wondered why they were doing it right in front of him. He said that he had been hatching this plan for over 10 years, and therefore he couldn't let Jiang Ting escape unharmed, as he might become a big obstacle in the future. But what happens if something bad happens to the messenger before the message is even delivered? Suddenly, a huge centipede crawled out beside Jiang Ting and Liu Munan, and Zhang Fengyi shouted that he couldn't be blamed for not containing his strength. Jiang Ting said that she was as silly as before and asked why she was from the Panlun Palace. Just as suddenly, the centipede was chopped up in the blink of an eye, leaving a dumbfounded Zhang Fengyi. Zhang Fengyi wanted to know why these two suddenly became so strong. Liu Munan used the seal and asked Jiang Ting not to worry. Jiang Ting was surprised that Liu Munan had something similar to a black omen. Liu Munan said that since Zhang Fengyi was so stubborn, she would have to ask someone to pass judgment. Zhang Fengyi was surprised by what he saw, for Liu Munan was trying to summon someone from the Panlun Palace. And just a few moments later, the manager of the left branch of the palace, Panlun Qi Xiuming, appeared in front of them. He asked Zhang Fengyi why he did not follow the words that had already been said twice. Zhang Fengyi was amazed that this girl was able to summon the manager himself, after which he shouted that he was afraid that he had lost his mind. So he asked for his mercy. He was willing to forget about his plans right now. Qi Xiuming took note of his words, then said that before kicking Zhang Fengyi's ass, he should give something back and sent the butterflies to him. From the contact with the butterflies, Zhang Fengyi's hand began to turn to dust, and he began to beg the manager for mercy. After all, he was doing everything for the sake of their palace. Manager Qi Xiuming said that he was only giving him one chance, and if he didn't take it, the next time their entire Zhang family would be destroyed. Zhang Fengyi thanked the manager for his leniency and cupped his hand, stopping it from scattering. Jiang Ting was astonished that the palace Panlun hadn't lifted a finger to make Zhang Fengyi so destitute, while he himself had to risk his life to almost defeat him. As Zhang Fengyi left, he thought about how the Panlun Palace had used their family to suppress the Jiang family. But when they gained the upper hand, the Panlun Palace came to cut his hands. He felt like a wolf waiting to be defeated. But Panlun Palace is a hunter. Zhang Fengyi knew that the Panlun Palace did not favor anyone. Hence, he credited this defeat to Jiang Ting. Hence, he promised that Jiang Ting would still feel defeated. He was not going to let this just go. Manager Qi Xiuming praised Jiang Ting for being able to settle the troubles in the family at such a young age, and even being able to compete with the Zhang family. After which he praised Munan for being a really good judge of character, making her feel embarrassed in front of Jiang Ting. The manager asked to leave Liu Munan if it was convenient for him, because that way she would always be there to serve him. He admitted that he had heard of his reputation for a long time, and therefore wanted to be friends. But he was too busy right now, and so the manager suggested that Jiang Ting visit him as a guest. Suddenly, the ancestor spirit told Jiang Ting not to accept the invitation. Though he can't interfere in their fight, he can't let him go there, because all the masters invited to the palace end up being pack servants or killed. Jiang Ting asked the manager to answer one question. He asked for a yes or no answer. Jiang Ting asked if the manager had anything to do with his father's murder. Manager Qi Shuming replied yes. He revealed that although it was regrettable, the Panlong Palace would always directly admit to what they had done. Zhang Kaifeng had entered their treasury without permission, and therefore they couldn't just turn a blind eye to it. Hearing this, Liu Munyan realized why Jiang Ting felt so awkward when dealing with her. Qi Shuming realized that Jiang Ting would probably refuse and felt regretful that such a young sapling would die because of hatred. The ancestor spirit told Zhang Sontening about how the Panlun mansion was always treacherous and admitted that he felt his hatred towards them. He asked Jiang Ting not to be afraid, for even at the cost of his spirit's death, he was willing to help Jiang Ting in the battle. But unexpectedly, Jiang Ting accepted the invitation, thanking them for their warm welcome and said that he was honored to be their guest. The manager laughed at what he heard and told Jiang Ting that he would be waiting for him at his estate. Ji Shiqi bowed to the sectmaster and reported that he had lost the sword Kirin but was ordered to return. He asked if they intended to let him return the sword. The master told the assassin not to say more than necessary and ordered him to leave now. As soon as the assassin left as the master's mask began to fade away, the master was pleased with Zhang Tinhua for not letting him down, and that should be the end of today's fight. Years later, Zhang's family can finally see hope. Zhang Kaiyu is coming back. And in just a moment, a crowd of people came running towards him, Qianduo shouting that the boy he had been waiting for had finally arrived. The next morning, Li Yan laughed from the fact that years had passed, but Zhang Kaiyu was still alive. But the man asked him not to waste his time and asked how his daughter was feeling. Li Yang replied that she wasn't badly poisoned and said that the blooming wine had arrived in time, so she would be fine, so he should worry about himself. He told Kaiyue that his body was overgrown with crow poison, so it was impossible to recover, and all he could do was to help him stay alive as long as possible. Jiang Kaiyu reminded Li Yan that he had said the same thing years ago. He said that the Jiang family was worth sacrificing their lives. To which Li Yang replied that he hated people willing to sacrifice their lives like that, after which he added that the poisoning made him vulnerable to medication, and therefore he would have to endure the pain. After which he sharply stuck the bubble game straight into the place most affected by the poison. Meanwhile, Jiang Chenghe complained that he, as the master of the Zhang family, could not behave in such a manner, to which Zhang Liang replied that he would never listen to him, so he also tried to hack him with a sword. Jiang Shui told Jiang Zi that although she had finally recovered, the young master had gone unknown. Jiang Zi explained that Jiang Ting is always like this. Even since he was a child, he hides when something hard to explain happens. She asked Jiang Shui not to worry. After all, they weren't the ones who needed him right now. Meanwhile, not far away from the city, Jiang Ting was sadly throwing stones into the water. The ancestor spirit asked Jiang Ting why he was still here. After all, Zhang's family had finally found peace, and he could enjoy time with his loved ones. Jiang Ting asked the ancestor spirit how he could face Jiang Zi. The ancestor reminded him that he had captured Zhang Qinghe and repelled Zhang Fengyi's attack. He was clearly more than worthy for this. Jiang Ting said that all this was done at the cost of the lives of Zhang's men, and the only way to save everyone is to accept the invitation of the Panlun Palace. Jiang Ting admitted that he was too weak and asked if he was worth their trust. Jiang Ting promised to revive the Zhang family, but he can't even protect those around him. He felt that he was not worthy of being called the master of the Zhang family. Just as suddenly, someone threw a rock into the water, pouring water on Jiang Ting and distracting him from thinking. Liu Munan laughed from this. She was happy that she was finally able to find him. She told him that the injured people were already fine and he hadn't eaten since yesterday, so she made him some snacks. Jiang Ting held out the sword at Liu Munan's neck and said that the Panlun Palace had sent her as a servant, but they might have wanted something else after all. Since she saved the Jiang family yesterday, he's not going to cause trouble for her, so he asked her to just find another place. But Liu Munan said that if she harbored a grudge against him, she could just wait for the Zhang family to die and then escort the dying Jiang Ting to fulfill her mission. She offered to let him kill her if he wished, and she wouldn't even grumble. Suddenly, she sat down next to Jiang Ting and told him that she wouldn't leave until her mood improved. The awkward silence made them both blush and turn away from each other. In order to dispel the silence, Liu Munan decided to say that ever since the meeting in the Forest of Ice and Flame, the thought of meeting him again had settled in her mind. But after all of that, she had to go through many trials and eventually ended up in the Panlun Palace. And she doesn't even want to mention the hardships she went through. Jiang Ting admitted that he did not know what the Panlun Palace was, but he only hoped that she would not suffer through it. Liu Munan fed Jiang Ting and said that she didn't expect Jiang Ting to just trust her, but admitted that she only wanted to stay by his side. She hopes that she can help him, and even if she is able to give him negligible, and therefore deep down, he is a hero to her who always protects everyone. But Jiang Ting doesn't see himself as such, for they are injured or killed. He failed to protect them, and it's all his fault. And if he gets stronger and more meticulous, he can protect everyone, and something like this won't happen again. As Liu Munan suddenly touched his forehead and asked him not to frown, she said that he was taking on too much. She admitted that she knows he's trying his best. He's so gentle when he accepts an invitation for everyone to. He doesn't have to endure everything alone, and he's never alone. Liu Munan extended his hand and motioned for them to return to the others. Jiang Ting was a little confused, but he still took her hand. All this time, someone had been secretly following Jiang Ting and Liu Munan. Manager Qi Shuming asked Yao Yuan why he was showing him all this, and the one revealed that Liu Munan had told Jiang Ting everything about them, and therefore they would not be coming to them soon. He said that this bitch was not doing well with the duties that their Yao family was responsible for, and therefore he would like to ask for permission to rush her. The manager decided to ask Zhang Tianlong what he thought about it. Tianlong walked out and bowed, after which he admitted that he thought that Yao Yuan was only doing this out of personal animosity, and he also added that his father was blind, but that shouldn't affect the loyalty of the Zhang family in any way. The manager was pleased with what he heard, and for their loyalty, he ordered them to bring Jiang Ting to the mansion. The manager advised Jiang Tian to laugh while he could. After all, this was just the beginning. If you liked the video, then subscribe to the channel and write a comment about what you liked. All the best. See you soon.